everybody, Roar the Lions UK, Matt and Ash coming at you, just getting set up here. Ryan McCluskey to join us as and when he gets back from nicking a point apparently in the football. So, boys, how you doing?
Doing good. Nice to have some sports go my way this weekend, unlike past weeks.
Yeah, doing good.
Ash, I will take 2 more days of you doing good at the very least. So you got City on Wednesday, haven't you?
Yeah, yes, we do. Who knows? We did it in December. Can we do it this time?
Lost Oceans just said Ash needs to turn up his mic.
Oh God. Okay, give me a sec. Doing this a couple of days ago. Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
There we are.
Yeah, the volume was a little down on that.
I turned it down when I first joined because there was some idiot doing DIY next door, and I really don't want you guys have to listen to the sound of drilling. It's bad enough having to hear my voice. It must have been a shock for you guys if you've listened to you weren't listening live to the Pride of Detroit mainline podcast, and suddenly I pop about halfway through.
Did you? I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, I'm on there, and then because I joined listening, and Dan obviously is the first guy up. He mentions, "Oh yeah, I see Ash from Roar the Lions is here. Maybe that's a question later." So I'm sitting there for half an hour on the floor after I get back from training. It's like, what's a good question I can ask? And of course, the first part of the question, you guys are going to groan at. You can guess which direction I went with it in terms of draft. The second one, Ryan and Jeremy absolutely loved. So, and the clue to that question is my attire right now. So,
hey, there we go.
It went well.
Lost Oceans just said, just listen to it. All right, I will.
Oh, there you go, exactly.
I'll get there. I listen to about 15 hours of football podcasts a week, so give me a chance.
Only 15? That's amateur numbers. You need to be pumping them up. I'm at 4 hours a day.
Really? Shit.
Yeah.
That's a long time. We are, of course, covering wide receivers today in the NFL draft, and actually, unless we get in any extra shows, this is our last positional prospect show, because we're just running out of time. So Next week is our Lions 7-round mock draft. The week afterwards is our full first-round mock. And then we're into the week of the draft. Myself and Ash will be in Detroit. I hope maybe the weekend before we can pre-record something to go out, potentially. I don't know. But
I mean, my coach down to Heathrow is at 3:00 in the morning, so I've got all the time in the world.
I thought for some reason you were going to stay the night before.
I was going to try to, but in terms of money, it was better for me to go in the morning. So I'll have flag football training in Saturday morning, sleep from that, get ready, and then I'm up at the university up just the road from me at 3:00 in the morning to get to Heathrow for 7.
7?
Yeah.
You don't need to get to Heathrow. Or what, is it just that's when it gets there? And
yeah. And then the next coach is at 12. So that'll be a bit too late because the plane will already be in the air at that point.
Yeah. I potentially will stay the night before.
Yeah.
Stay in central London somewhere.
Fair.
Because otherwise it's a mission. And also you're at the mercy of crashes and stuff on the motorway or...
Yeah, true. I was going to say that when I went down there to pick up somebody from Heathrow a couple of years ago, I stayed at the Travel Lodge just down the road from Heathrow and then just got the bus up to the terminal in the morning at 7:00 to pick them up.
All right. If you guys have any questions about the wide receivers in this draft, please get them in at the channel so I can see it. I'll put it in, much like Carlton Wood, who's already got his question in on Twitter. So please do. Brent's also just said thanks about the HBCU podcast. I hope you get Coach on again. Isn't he a Lions coach? Another Lions coach? Question mark. Laughing, crying emoji. He does come across like the sort of guy that Dan Campbell would absolutely love. To be fair, and I don't know whether you got that impression.
Yeah,
no, he's a Lincoln University Lions coach. So he's actually a Lions coach. His Div 2 team is actually the Lions. I said everyone wants to be Lions, and he just laughed.
Yeah. I mean, I love the shout out for the Aeneas bit, but you missed an opportunity earlier when he said about a guy who plays all phases special team. It's like perfect chance to drop me in there. I take any. You know, I'm like, I was literally, I was at the gym doing recovery. I'm on the treadmill and I hear that and I'm like, yes. Aeneas Achilles.
I thought of you at least.
You
so,
did, yeah, you did. I appreciate it. I had a smile on my face as running on the treadmill.
Brent also says he's now a Tariq Stewart fan. He got a big shout out from Coach. I haven't actually seen any of him yet, so there we go. Right. Have you guys managed to cover the people that you said you would? Cool. So I don't have to adjust any of that. I was just saying to Ash and that I have this week covered 18 of the wide receivers in this class. So maybe we'll do what we did last week and just do the ones that we said we're going to cover and then just take it from the top and go down in terms of brief thoughts.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Sounds good. Lost Ocean said, I've heard good things about the Mercer wide receiver, late rounder, undrafted guy.
Oh, shit. RJ Mobley. I think is it RJ Mobley. It's one of.
Have a look.
That was not one of mine.
Consensus big board.
It's not on the consensus big board.
Yeah, none of them are on the big board.
I have added the 3 that I found. And I put Joshua Cephas on there now, just for you.
Ty James.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's on mine. 473rd.
He was interviewed 7 days ago by Windy City Gridiron, which is, I'm guessing, a Bears.
Yeah.
It is the Bears SB Nation site. Fun times. All right. Oh, thanks to Jeff Hurley, by the way, for the $10 super sticker right at the top of the show. Many thanks, Jeff. You are, as always, incredible contributor to the show. Wouldn't do it without you. Yeah, Lost Oceans did say Ty James. All right. Should we get going?
Yep.
Oh. Just before we do, Carlton Woods coming in with I'm assuming it's a £10 tip, but it's $12.55 tip. And it says, great HBCU podcast team. Thanks, Carlton. Appreciate you, man. It's one of the best shows the pod's ever done, to be honest. And I just wish I understood more, 1, about FCS football, and 2, about HBCU football, because I just don't know the names or the faces, and frankly, I haven't put in the time. And listening to you guys riff back and forward was really great.
Well, that's the thing. We kind of know enough, but when you get a guy on like it, you let him talk. He'll tell you everything you want to know. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Too many people bring like experts on, then they just try and get in the way and try and be part of it. And they're like, with this, I can go 30, 40 minutes without saying a word, but I don't really care because I'm learning as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was so cool though. Like he you know, some of the Shrine Bowl stuff, man. It's like, oh yeah, got to chat to Christian Boyd. I'm like, fuck, like just, and he's like, he's a nasty mofo, and I'm just like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm sold, but you're selling me even more now. He's got the same passion for small school stuff. It's like I really love Group of 5 stuff. Ryan loves FCS stuff. Like we all kind of love the same stuff. You know, enough people do Power 5 and shit like that. Not enough people shout out the little guys, and like you said, what win your Super Bowls? Like these day 3 guys, that's you win Super Bowls on day 3. The more guys you can find there, the more you can flesh out your roster, the more successful you'll be. And like so many of these guys are there, but it's cool. It's just so cool. I love it.
He gave 2 big shout outs to that guy, the Northern Iowa DT, but also one of the guys I profiled in the offensive line stuff that we did, I think, which was Mason McCormick.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yes, my guy. Let's go.
He's exploding everywhere because Bishop Brown mentioned him on their interior offensive line preview this week as well, and they love him.
The FCS class is just good this year. Like, it's so good. Like, so many of these guys are going to get drafted and they're going to perform right away, and like it was just great. And he met and talked with Stiggers as well. Like at this point, it's like an obsession. Stiggers, like, because I don't know whether he meant to let it drop, but he said he was listening in when he was talking to the Lions contingent at the Shrine Bowl, because we were chatting with him there. But he shouted out the Lion. He shouted out the Lions.
But doing their
scout
due
groups.
diligence, yeah.
He says their scouting department is like one of the best there is in terms of knowing what they want and what they're looking for. So it's like, that's actually quite cool.
Well, and it's obvious from the way that we've drafted that we can't draft the way we have unless that's true. To hear it from the grounds confirmed is quite something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he says they know what they're doing, so and they're meeting a lot of these guys.
Lost Ocean says that he is a Northern Iowa grad, so there we go. And Cool Down Rash, i.e. Carlton Woods, coming in with the Prime subscription for the 12th month in a row, but 20 total, and he has another question, which is, which offensive lineman was he on about going one-on-one with Christian Boyd? I think that was Mason McCormick.
McCormick, yeah.
Yes, it's my guy.
It's just like the two were killing each other all day, but in a good way. Like, they were just beating up on one another all day, and then they were beating up on everybody else who was there. But there's a lot of love for him, for McCormick now, like a lot of love. But I won't be surprised if Christian Boyd got all the way up to near the second round now, like the back end of, like, he could be that high. He'll definitely be day 2, but like he could get well into day 2 at this point, given like the lack of interior DT guys knocking around this year in general. Like, if a lot of them go high and there's demand for them, his premium will skyrocket.
Yeah, because who would you rather have? Like, the people in that range, in that sort of late fringe day 2 range, is like Horoho, Michael Hall, Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo, and it's like, whatever.
Maybe.
If a Power 5 guy is there, then something's gone wrong. If a Group of 5 or an FCS guy is there, something's gone right.
Yeah.
For them to get in that conversation.
But yeah, Mason
Power 5 guy slips that far, there's usually something wrong with them. Yeah. Or something not right. Whereas the others, they're proving a point. Otherwise, they just don't have the exposure these other ones have. So I'm the same. In that bracket, you're like, that's why I prefer the smaller school guys when you're talking day 3 stuff. For the most part, because they've proven themselves worthy of being there, not fallen there.
The thing about Mason McCormick that's so interesting is he started in the 400s in this process just a couple of months ago. And I think he could threaten day 2. I think when it all said and done, I think he'll probably be like a round 4, round 5 guy. But I think he's got a chance.
The championship game was a big thing for them because that was like national exposure. Like, the FCS championship game gets watched by a lot of people. It has a lot of attention drawn to it. And they wrecked Montana. Very good team, and like you just kind of got to see what they're all about. But they got like 5, 6, 7 guys in this draft for an FCS school, like legitimate draftable prospects. Like, that's really, really impressive.
Just on the draft, I think that myself and Ash were gonna try and bring as much stuff from the ground as we can with the limitations of the internet that we have in our place and whatever. So I don't know exactly what we're going to be able to do, but do expect to see us. I know Ash might have a good camera with him, and we're certainly going to bring equipment with us. So do expect to see us and expect to be active on social media and that sort of thing. So if you want to meet us, if you want to say hello, if you're in the area and want to go for a beer, I'm so keen. So keen.
Okay.
Go to Greek Town and get a beer in a bar somewhere, or go to the casino or something. Those are the main areas, I think, to go for a drink, really. So I know Dan Pask is going, so I can't wait to have the British reunion. Lisa said, I think McCormick will go day 2 if we draft him. Yeah, it's absolutely fair.
According to what I'm using, because obviously I know that your consensus board is a couple of weeks out of date, so I'm using mock draft database.
A couple of months out.
He's up to 110,
120.
Currently, according to them, 121.
Yeah.
But he's because they track mock drafts, he's been going in the third round since a couple of weeks ago. So third round to Cardinals a couple of times, the Bears a couple of times, the Vikings a couple of times, us.
Yeah.
Browns.
It's going to be a consistent thing, I think. Anyway, let's get this on the road because we've got a lot of people. It's a deep wide receiver class. So let's get chatting. All right, 1, 2, 3. Oh, hang on. Sorry, here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 262. Roman Wilson.
I'm sorry, Wilson.
My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden, soon to be joined by Ryan McCluskey. How you doing, boys?
Doing great. Love the title. Another good movie reference.
I think that just made me ill.
Wasn't that bad? Come on, my history with titles.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Like, that's 10 out of 10 for creativity, so.
Thank you. We are here to discuss the 2024 wide receiver class, one of the deepest class in the NFL draft, all the way through. I mean, historically good at the top. Couple of guys in that first round consideration still. Exceptionally good round 2. And then all the way back through to round 7 and UDFA. It's one of the strongest classes in NFL draft history. And we are going to be having a look at that today, as well as having a look at the one piece of news that we have over this past week, which is still up in the air at the moment. But first, do come and join our Discord channel. It's going to be a great place to hang out with some like-minded people during the draft. You'll also see stuff from myself and Ash while we're out there at the NFL draft. Of course, if you want to meet up with us because you're going, then just ping us a DM on Twitter and we'll arrange something. But yeah, the link is in the live chat right now. Be delighted to see you there. College Football Podcast has been pretty active, and on YouTube has just gone up your HBCU podcast with Coach Huggins.
Yeah, it's great. We've sort of made an annual thing of this now because obviously me and Rye, we do the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl, all that sort of stuff. But we like to cover as much college football as possible, and the HBCUs are stacked full of talent. And Coach Huggins, he's one of the foremost authorities when it comes to HBCU prospects. Hell, he scouts. He's a national scout with a Shrine Bowl now. Draft HBCU players. Like, he's the guy to go to for all the information. And I'd love having him on. I love learning. And there's just a ton of talent coming through this year. Bonafide talent that can make an impact on an NFL roster right away. Like, Joshua Williams is a 2-time Super Bowl winner. He's been in the league 2 years. Like, shit's easy sometimes for some of these guys, but yeah, it's great. We had 2 hours of very fun conversation with that, and we'll have him on again at some point. But yeah, it's a great show. If you want to learn about the HBCU prospects this year, there are many good ones. Then go and listen to it. It's great stuff.
I can say this very unbiasedly because I wasn't on the show. I simply don't have the knowledge to even be in the conversation. It's one of the best shows the pod's ever done. So do go and check that out, especially if you like smaller school stuff. But if you like the underdog stories and the people to look out for on day 3 of the draft, you're going to want to listen to that too. Please don't forget to like the show, sub to the podcast, all that good stuff, and add our friends over at Lions Nation Unite on their Facebook group, Herman Moore's project to bring the best in Lions content creators together. We are Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized, and there's a tip jar in the YouTube description if you're enjoying what you're listening to. Then if you want to show some love that way, that'd be great. If you want to contribute to the show or get something back, our merch store is live and the link is in the chat at the moment. Want a really good way to support the show and get some nice hoodies or caps or hats or whatever you like. And there's a feedback form in the YouTube description too if you've got any suggestions for content or anything like that, some constructive feedback, whatever you like, then please do get in touch. Right, boys, the one piece of news was a bit of a shocker, I think, for all of us, considering a lot of people were debating in the first place about whether Brock Wright was worth $3 million a season. And the 49ers, despite signing Brock Wright to a similar, Brock Wright Light to a similar deal, have then actually, no, did they not?
What version of Brock Wright Light got signed by the Panthers to a big deal?
There we go. Fair enough. They signed Brock Wright to an offer sheet on March 30th. That gives the Lions 5 days to match that deal. He was on a right of first refusal or original round tender worth $2.985 million. That means that if he was drafted, the Lions would get that draft pick back in compensation. Because he was undrafted, no compensation if he goes. The deal's signed. Apparently, we don't have the details yet, I don't think. But it was a 3-year deal worth $12 million, including $6 million guaranteed. Now, how that all shakes out, we won't know until that becomes the actual deal when it's on over the cap. But those seem like fairly hefty numbers, boys. I mean, $4 million a year instead of $3 million. I mean, it's only $1 million, but it's a 33% hike on an amount which a lot of Lions fans weren't exactly sold on themselves. We've got 3 more days at the time of recording. I think April 4th, which would be 5 days after the offer sheet was signed, or it could be the 3rd if it's including the day in which it was signed. I'm not exactly sure on the rules, but it's there or thereabouts. What do you think is going to happen here? Because it seems like a lot of money for a peripheral player. However, it is only $1 million APY more. Like, then it's not exactly breaking the bank on their original position. So what do you think they'll do, and what would you do with this, Ash?
So this situation was my worst fear confirmed. As Matt alluded to earlier, I wasn't happy originally when we signed a right of first refusal tender. I thought it was about $1 million more than I would have offered him. For it to potentially now double what I would have originally offered him is a big thing, but I think we're going to sort of at least match it, because otherwise there was literally no point at all putting the tender on. Like, otherwise, why do it? Because you would have just, it would have been easier just to save yourself that hassle, let him test the open market, and then, yeah, if he got that deal, he could have signed it, or his agent could have said to us, oh yeah, the Niners have given us this. All it stood, it just locked us into pretty much having to do it to justify putting the tender on, because otherwise we get nothing back. He was a UDFA. We gain nothing from doing it otherwise. The only course of action I can see to justify the tender is for us to do it. Personally, I wouldn't do it myself. I'd let the Niners do it. Give James Mitchell a chance in camp, because, as we all know from when we drafted him, I was kind of high on him. He's obviously coming off the ACL, and then last year wasn't really used. There's stuff there that could be used as a good receiving weapon, and the blocking, well, yes, it's not up to scratch of what Brock was offering us. There's coachability in there. Like, you saw it in college, you saw it in his first couple of years, that he's a willing blocker, just needs a bit of technique refinement. But it also then opens us up to looking late in the draft, UDFA again, or a cheap free agent to do it, because we need, prove to our system, we need 3 tight ends we can rely on, because of just the way things work. Yes, James Mitchell was that last year, tight end 3, didn't really get much play, but we knew the team at least trusted him, because we signed Zach Ertz when Brock Wright had his injury, and then didn't really use him. He was just on the practice squad. Ertz is still a starting level tight end in the league, and the fact that the team trusted James Mitchell over him shows they trust him as well. We just need someone else there now other than him and Laporta, because otherwise the system kind of falls apart. We predicate on tight ends with who our head coach is, who our offensive coordinator is, and who our passing games coordinator is on offense. We need 3 good tight ends, so we're almost locked into at least matching the Niners offer, I think. So
what do you think, Ant?
Yeah, this is easy. See you later.
Do you think the Lions are actually going to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, you give him a tender, but, $3 million, but money's money. Money's valuable. And when you're working on the margins we're going to be working on this year, every million counts. And I think for the tight end 3, I'm not paying him that much. We've invested in James Mitchell in the draft. Injuries have kind of hampered that so far, but you did start to see him come into the team last year. And I think you will look to carry on making strides with him as your tight end 2, and then you'll probably bring in someone behind that to carry going on. But, like, I'm not paying him that much money.
we've got other needs and we might need that money for something else. Like, just because we gave him the tender doesn't then mean we have to go and overspend when someone calls us on it. Like, you've just got to be sensible about it. It's a lot of money. It's a 3-year commitment. I don't really want that. Like, thanks, bro. Well, you've earned your bag. Enjoy. We go again. This is like a depth tight end position we're talking about. It ain't the end of the world if he leaves.
Got a comment here from someone called Stephen Collins. No idea who he is, but he says, never ask a South Yorkshireman about giving someone a pay rise. But anyway, I just thought that was worth a comment.
Where's Ryan? Ryan's not here.
Yes, quite. Anyway,
Sure as hell better not be referring to me. I am not on that side of the border, and I will take issue with you if you think I do. I'm on the right side of the border.
I don't actually know what county Chesterfield is in, if I'm honest.
Derbyshire.
Derbyshire, thank you.
I'm on the right side of the border. Not having to do with them Yorkshire logs.
Fair. I have a slight difference of opinion on it. I don't really like paying 3 mil for him, but I'm fine paying for APY, really. I just don't think the difference is very much. But for me, he's clearly my tight end too. And at this point, the draft pick's a sunk cost. And I'm not going to say that we're more invested in James Mitchell because we drafted him, because at this point, Brock Wright's done more than James Mitchell has in his Lions career. And when I project out what I think they might do in their career, I think Brock Wright potentially has the brighter future. You may disagree. In fact, I'm pretty sure you both disagree with that. But I think that it's close enough that you could see that the argument could be made that that's the case. We have a play that always works with him that goes for a touchdown. But generally speaking, even though he looks like he's wading through treacle every time he runs with the ball, somehow he still makes yak. And he's a fairly athletic guy. I just think he's going to be a bit of a slow burn when it comes to this sort of thing. His blocking is not as good as it could be for a primarily blocking tight end. Do you think he can get better? But in terms of the cap in 2024, depending on what the signing bonus is on this deal, you might not see any difference in the 2024 cap here. I mean, if it's a $6 million signing bonus and that's pretty much everything that's guaranteed on a $12 million deal, it's $2 million a year on that. So it might be 3 in year one. It might be even less. It might be 2.5. Like, we don't know what the impact is going to be on this cap, but it could go down. We could have more cap space because of this deal in 2024. So it's hard to say until we actually see the devil of the detail. And with a $6 million guarantee, it could be that he's cuttable after one season anyway. So I think the problem is we don't know what the contract is. So let's see what happens. I do expect them to do it. And frankly, I'm not certain James Mitchell's going to make the roster. Like, he was near the bubble last year, had injuries. I don't think any favours were done of him last season. I wouldn't cut him, but I'm just saying that we'll bring in a fourth tight end. And then that fourth tight end is going to be competing with the person who's regarded as third. And I think that they'll think Brock Wright is the 2. So, yeah. And if they pay him this, he will be the 2, because that's what this says. You do not pay a tight end 3 this money. I agree with Ant. So if they pay him it, he's the 2.
Yeah. So my thing is, yeah, it happened last camp, as you said. It was him versus Zylstra. Zylstra was looking good until the injury. But then, I think the team then did bind him to tight end because I said, we brought in Zach Ertz when Brock Wright had his hip injury that meant he was on IR. Mm. Ertz did not see the field. It was Mitchell. Mitchell had the uptick in snaps. Admittedly, it was barely anything. And unfortunately for him, the one play you can actually remember of him last year was him. Yeah, it was him accidentally. It was him dropping the pass in Dallas that then led to us doing the infamous 4th down play. But people forget the season before, he was 100% catch rate. When you use him and you put him into rhythm, that dude catches everything you throw at him. And yeah, okay, he's going to be off the ACL. Now he's another year removed from that. And he's had time to sort of work on stuff. I wouldn't be surprised, and this is up again. I'm going to clip this if I have it, and in 12 months' time, if I'm completely wrong, I'll happily post it up, like I happily posted the clips I took of Ant saying about Chesterfield getting promoted. James Mitchell could be a breakout tight end, breakout candidate for us this year if we don't sign Brock Wright.
Absolutely agree. But last year, 158 snaps, which was less than the previous season. No game ranked above 60 on PFF. I know PFF is not the be-all and end-all, but it's indicative. His PFF grade in 2022 was 67. Last year was 41. Like, I don't think you can say that's doing him any favours. So,
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. Right, let's move on from that one bit of news and actually talk about what we're here to talk about, which is the wide receiver class. Now, between the three of us and Ryan, who I'm hoping is going to make the show, we have got 12 guys for you, and then we are going to cover the remainder of the bigger names in this class in a bit more of a summary format. And I'm going to go to Ant first, if that's all right with you. Oh, no. Okay, we'll go on with someone else. We'll go to Ash first then. Ash, free choice for you. You've got three guys, I think, all of which are in day one or day two consideration. So who's up for you first?
Let's go for probably the one that people know least, and that will be Javon Baker out of UCF, the Golden Knights. So this is, as Matt alluded to, he is currently in late day two consideration. So for my things, I've used mock draft databases, consensus board that tracks mock drafts and everything. So according to them, he's the 19th receiver and the 99th overall prospect. So a late day two pick. To go off the athletic testing, so his RAS 7.80, good size, 6'1", 202 pounds, 9 and like 2/3 inch hands, and then 32.25-inch arms. Good speed with a 4.54 second 40, with a 1.58 10-yard split. The explosion, again, good, 37-inch vertical, and a 10'1" broad jump. Didn't do the agility testing, so it's not down there. And Raz's comparison for him is the former Dallas and Miami Dolphins wide receiver who is now playing for the New Orleans Saints in Cedric Wilson Jr. Is that kind of big-bodied outside guy who's not going to be your main target, but can do stuff, which I think is a fair comparison for him. So, that's some fun news, fans. So this year, he had a 82.9 offensive grade from PFF with an 84.3 receiving grade and a 64.9 run blocking grade. He caught 52 of his 84 targets for 1,139 yards and 7 touchdowns, 42 first downs, 375 yards against the after the catch, a 10.3% drop rate, which is not the best, but a 56.3% contested catch rate, and he played just over 27% of his snaps in the slot, and everything else was on the outside. So the game I watched in particular for him was Kansas this year, where he earned a 77.8 grade, with 77 receiving grade, and a 62.2 run block. He caught 4 of his 7 targets for 85 yards, no touchdowns, 3 first downs, 12 yards after the catch, didn't drop a pass, was 50% on his contested catches, and played about 26% of his snaps in the slot. So his strengths, has decent game speed. I know obviously you just said with the RAS, a 4.540 isn't the best, but he actually looks faster in game. Like there was some times when he was on the go balls where he was just going downfield. So that's good to see that he's maybe got the GPS speed over the running speed, which is something the team values. And he's really good with his route running, especially when finding holes in between the safeties and linebackers in breaking routes. There's quite a few times against Kansas where he just ran a 15-yard in and he just got open in that sort of zone. And there was a time on a go route where he just got the DB just to bite inside and he was gone down the sideline. But in terms of his biggest strength for me, it's finding the ball in the air. So he just well to balls outside his catch radius to use his body to shield the ball from DBs. And there was a go route from the slot where he just lay out and got the ball, even though it was a couple of yards in front of him. He lay out, got it, got down to the 1, and then UCF were able to punch the ball in. And he fights through contact for extra yards despite his slim stature, and he's really willing run blocker. Sometimes he loses because of his size, but for the most part, if he's blocking, he's just charging through people. As for his weaknesses, as I've alluded to He's not your prototypical X receiver, because obviously that's the thing I've been banking on about for a while. So that's the kind of receiver I'm looking for. So he doesn't have the size and weight you're really looking for an X receiver, but he's got the play to maybe take that kind of role. And he does take a while to get through his gears. While I said he's got decent speed, sometimes it does take him a while to get up there, especially since he doesn't have the best release package. He just keeps using the same sort of quick feet release package over and over. And so DBs, when impressed against him, can sort of eliminate him quickly from the play. And he does commit concentration drops, which is kind of disappointing. So there were times where he got open on his in-breaking routes and just dropped the ball because he wasn't really focusing. He was already thinking about, this is where I'm going to go with the ball now. And he just dropped the ball. And it's not really a weakness, but it's just something I spotted that I think in the NFL, secondary coaches are going to pick up on and just coach their corners to do. When he is going on go routes and posts and corners, he does favor going around the DB's outside shoulder, which means that if he gets the ball, it's really easy for the corner just to force him out of bounds rather than him being able to cut inside and get more yards after the catch. So that's something that a wide receiver coach might have to work with him on, just improve that release package, get him going inside a bit more when he's going down the sideline, just to make sure he can get a few more yards. My comparison for him is Darius Slayton. So obviously the New York opponent playing for New York Giants, decent wide receiver who can play the X for you, but you'd prefer him to probably play the Z. And so, and for him to really play the X receiver role, you might have to put a few more pounds on him just so he can gain a bit more functional strength to be a better run blocker and to maybe get through contact a bit better. But for us, if he did come here, he would be a good Josh Reynolds replacement, because Reynolds obviously played the X and the Z, versatile, but until he maybe puts on that a few extra pounds to get the functional strength, he will have to bounce around a bit with us, because JMO is now that lock in the Z role. He is going to be there, so he will have to sort of bounce around a bit, maybe split time with Donovan Peoples-Jones at that X role while he gains that functional strength and works on those things, because if you just shove him in the X, he probably won't hit the ground running. But over time, as he gets used to the NFL, he could be a good X receiver, not your main target, because obviously we've got Amon-Ra, JMO, Samuel Laporte, Gibbs, but he's someone that you can maybe get 50, 60 targets a year, get about 700 yards and a couple of touchdowns. So he'd be a very good day two receiver fit for us. Obviously, as we'll come on to later, there are probably better fits for us.
And have you seen any of him?
Nothing really that I can add to that. So
I've been watching his highlights because he's not one of the guys I've managed to watch besides the 18 I've watched this week. Definitely lots of guys got pretty impressive strength for his size, like you say, but
yeah.
Do you actually think he can load that extra weight onto his frame? Really? Like, he's not the biggest built guy.
Yeah, it's for me when I was watching him, it was more, at least I'm basing off how it's in my body. You can maybe get him on his legs. Like, he's got the upper body for me, but if you just put on a bit more of like the sort of thigh strength, you can push through guys. Because when I was watching Kansas, there was one where he gets the ball, I think it was on a hitch, and the corner just gets him down by the legs. If he had a bit more like sort of lower body strength, he would be able to sort of power through those arm tackles. And then, as I said, run through people in run blocking. It probably won't be like, I'm not saying put like 20 pounds, but another 5-10 pounds, especially on that lower body, and he could be a bit better. But as I say, yeah, he's never going to be a sort of DK Metcalf's, Mike Evans. He's just not that kind of guy.
All right, we're going to move on from him because I don't have anything else to add. Ant, are you ready, or do you want me to take one?
You do one and then I'll do one.
All right, I'm going to go in reverse order from my guys. So, although this wasn't the lowest guy on my thing, he is now, since the guy lower is actually much better, and it's just that I'm out of date. So we're going to go all the way into the FCS. And actually, I'm going to add a couple of FCS guys that I've seen in the game that I watched because they're also worth a mention. We're going to go for the wide receiver, Hayden Hatton from Idaho. Hayden, he is 6'2", 205, so he kind of matches that sort of height weight that you'd like. Maybe you'd like him to be a bit heavier, but, you know, he can fill that sort of X role for you at that sort of physicality. PFF gave him a 90.5 grade for the season, so he's had a very good year at that FCS level. Obviously, you have to take the level of competition into consideration, but playing well is playing well no matter who you're going up against. And I mean, he's just had a terrific year. So I actually haven't written down his bloody stats for the year, so I'm just going to quickly Google that now because you did such a good job of telling us what happened with that. Hatton had 1,231 yards and 9 touchdowns this season, finished his career with over 3,000 yards receiving. So that tells you how well he's done this so far this year. Hayden, he is a 5-year Idaho player. He's a 2-year starter in the last 2 seasons. After a torn labrum in 2021, he was a starter then, but obviously that's going to kill your year, unfortunately. He has the franchise record for college record for touchdowns. I can't speak, sorry. Touchdowns. Number 1 in program history. I can speak again now. He also said, and I listened to this on the coverage, I can count on one hand the number of drops I've had in college, which is the sort of bullshiness and brashness I really like in a guy. There's a Draft Diamonds review of him, which I urge you to go and read because it's really good. But this guy's primarily a wide guy, although he's got inside-outside versatility even at 6'2", 205. So 605 wide snaps this season, 197 in the slot, and then 592 wide and 109 in the slot in 2022. The game I watched was the FCS quarterfinal against Albany at home, which they actually ended up losing despite being ahead comfortably in the fourth quarter. They really shit the bed in the end, which is disappointing. And he's really impressive for an FCS prospect. He's just very consistent in what he does. His best work is underneath, which is slightly disappointing in someone which I was looking as a sort of prototypical X-type build. But he's big enough to compete on the outside. I just don't think they were giving him a lot of opportunity there because, frankly, the quarterback play wasn't exactly fantastic. He showed great body control, really good contested catchability. He's not quite as fast as you like, and didn't see him get pressed very much at all. Obviously, press man isn't a huge thing in college football in general, but especially so in the FCS level. So there's a question as to whether he can win against it. Even though he's 6'2", 205, he didn't really seem like he was the most aggressive releasing off the line, but maybe that's because he didn't have to be. But just the smoothest of smooth releases off the snap. He runs those sort of simple 5-yard, 10-yard out routes so nicely. On contact, he's securing the ball very safely. There's a bit of suddenness to his game where he can just change your direction and really create some separation for a guy that you don't really expect at 6'2", 205. Great awareness of the sideline. So because a lot of his work are kind of happening at that wide position and then he's doing out routes, a lot of the balls, they come a bit slower because of the poor quarterback play, which means the sort of contested catches on the sideline. He's making sure to get his feet down every single time. Leap and grab as well on a corner route. A ball much too high and he climbs the ladder and just manages to get there with one hand and great body control to get 2 feet down, not just one. So I was really, really impressed by what I saw from him. Now I've got a 48 score for him out of 100, which is top of the 5th round. And I think that's more a Lions-related sort of grade. I think other teams might have a 6th or 7th on him. But it's that sort of build, which, apart from maybe this draft, is just a bit rare. You don't see too many kind of 6'2", 200+ guys come out there that run like he does. I just don't think that he's been given the best of... I don't want to do down Idaho. That's not why I'm here. But I think he could do with some really good coaching at that next level to really bring things out of him because he needs to expand his route tree a little. The problem with him, of course, is that he's a 5th-year player, which means he's a bit older too. So that's him. And I'll just quickly go into my other FCS guys in a minute. Have you guys seen any of Hayden Hatton at all?
He was at the Hula Bowl and at the Shrine Bowl, I believe, as well. Showed out pretty well there. Again, he's sort of part of this crop of guys, him, Flournoy, David White. They're all potentially very intriguing guys. I have Flournoy and White just a bit above, but he's big. Like, he fits a prototype. Like, he's one of these guys where he's like a nice piece of clay, and you can mold him into something at the next level with the right coaching and the right development from him. So, yeah, he's part of a very intriguing crop of FCS receivers this year.
All right, just to speak about the other guys that I saw there, because I wasn't actually meant to be watching anyone else, but I came away watching 3 other guys as well at the same time because they just popped off the chart. The best of them was Brevin Easton, the wide receiver from Albany. So he's going to be probably a slot receiver at the next level, but he had inside-outside versatility at Albany, so 462 wide, 305 in the slot, and then in 2022, 278 wide, 137 in the slot. He's 5'10 and a half, 187 pounds. PFF gave him a 70.8 grade this season, and he got a hat trick in this game, which is why he really popped off the chart. But he had an incredible 64-yard touchdown where he just burns the guy, great concentration, nice ball tracking, hands, and the finish as well to get to the end zone was really, really good. Just smoothness and consistency in his routes. So sort of intermediate out route, great hands and footwork. He can stop on a dime, plant his foot and drive away. Another touchdown, this time releasing downfield, burning past and redirecting on a scramble drill. Great catch, getting into the end zone. He got speared catching the ball on a hospital pass and managed to hang on, which was great. That was on a quick slant on 4th down in an RPO situation. So he was the one guy you were throwing to based on the read. And the pass was terrible. And it was a spear that... why can't I remember the wrestler who's famous for the spear? Oh my God. White mask.
Goldberg.
No, well, yes, that's him.
Goldberg's the spear.
Yes, okay, fine. Goldberg would be proud of the spear, and Brevin Easton hung on to that, so that was really good. He also took a little triple option flip, so, you know, you can work him out of the backfield a little bit as well. He's a special teams gunner, and on one rep, he absolutely burned the guy trying to block him and timed the hit perfectly to potentially force a fumble. It didn't in that scenario, but it was just a really great rep. But his route running really shows up, and it just gives him lots of separation at this level. Whether that translates, I don't know, because obviously it's going to be a big step up for him. But I really loved watching what I did from him. He made a circus catch out there, managed to get a foot down. That was a one-handed grab. Had a really nice double move to create lots of separation. The final touchdown to get the hat trick was on a go ball, and he actually waited until the DB flipped his hips to just switch himself slightly behind the way the DB flipped his hips. And that subtlety in just even a go ball, being able to kind of put the DB in a bad spot was really nice to see. I've got him somehow, even though I wasn't watching out for him, as a mid-third rounder, because everything he does, I think, translates to the NFL really well. He's got speed. He only ran a 4.58 40-yard dash. I don't care. He's really fast on tape. Ran a 6.773 cone. 44 shuttle's fine, but it's not great. Vert was 37.5. So he's pretty explosive, pretty agile, very fast on tape. And he just consistently creates separation. Yes, he's 5'10". Do I think he'll be on the board for the Lions? Maybe not. But this is a guy currently being put out there as a UDFA. He should absolutely be drafted. I actually think personally he should go late day 2. A couple of other guys, Julian Hicks. He's 6'1.5", 201 pounds. He kind of looks like a little bit of an ex-receiver that might be. Actually, he popped off after one rep, but then was fairly disappointed by him afterwards. But he's got a 9.69 RAS, including a 1.52 10-yard split, a 6.773 cone, and a 4.03 shuttle. He's also very explosive, 10'6" broad, 36.5 vert, and at 6'1", 201. Those are some exceptional numbers. So even though he was disappointing on tape, for the physical upside, he might be worth a flyer. I've got him as a priority UDFA. And then you've got Jermaine Jackson from Idaho, wide receiver, He's a slot receiver, but actually he's going to be a special teamer at the next level, I think. Kick returner, went for 73 yards in this game. Smooth, fast, low center of gravity, really good vision. And then as an outside receiver, really shifty feet to completely fool a cornerback in press man. Went up the sideline for a good turn and catch, tracked the ball really well. I think that he could be drafted as one of those sort of really late round 7 picks. But you want to call special teamer, I think that Jermaine Jackson, maybe even as a gunner, but definitely potentially as a returner, especially with the rules changing, I think there could be a priority on guys like him. Have you seen any of those players?
As I just put on the Discord, I found the clip that I've had to say, because I saw he was at Syracuse's pro day. So it kind of came onto my radar there. Supposedly his short shuttle was even better. It would have was 4.13, which would have been first at the combine. So kind of came onto thing then, and I saw a clip then from Reddit, Reddit CFB that I've also put on the Discord. Looks good. Like, it will be one of those situations where it could, like, you obviously we have him as a 3rd rounder. It might be one of those where he has to make a rookie camp and work his way up from there, just because it's FCS. He's kind of small. He will need to show up with that route running against NFL level talent. But yeah, if there's stuff there, he could easily make himself roll. He could be, I don't know, the next Tom Kennedy for us if people are getting bored of him. Just bring the next one along in the conveyor belt.
Did you see any of them, Ant, or?
Not outside Relief Flying or the SCS ones. It's some depths even I can't get to with all these guys in there. So
yeah, fair. Right, you ready for your first one?
I am. Yeah.
All right, let's
Sorry,
get it.
I've just been finishing my last one. I've not done any of them, so I've done all. But anybody who knows me, Christian Haynes is my favorite prospect in this draft, the offensive guard. My second favorite, who I've mentioned for a very long time, now is Joshua Cephas. He is the wide receiver from the UTSA Roadrunners. He is 6'3", 185 pounds. And I apologize in advance for this because I was doing my notes today. It took me 3 hours and I wrote about 8 pages in my book. So I will try and skim and get things in there, but there's a reason why, and we'll do this as a go through. He is one of my favorite guys, which nobody is talking about. So meet the UTSA all-time leader in receptions, receiving yards, and starts. In 5 years, he's amassed 312 receptions on 433 targets, 3,618 receiving yards, and 28 touchdowns, averaging about 11.6 yards per carry. And the reason I've sort of gone so deep on this, like, draft sleeper is a watered down term nowadays. So many people get labeled as such, but Cephas is what used to be the definition of a true sleeper. He's coming from one of the most successful teams in college football in recent years, a team that has produced bona fide NFL standard talent from the group of 5 system. He's been highly productive and a versatile weapon in their offense. Yet he was snubbed for the combine. He went to All-Star games. He didn't go to the combine, and he gets very little love from draft analysts out there. This is like a day 3 undrafted free agent guy. So what is to like about him? For me, there's a lot. I'm going to start off with the versatility. So he began life predominantly as an outside receiver in his first 2 seasons in San Antonio before moving to the slot primarily for the next 2 years. So he did a little bit of both in his opening 4 years. And then year 5, he was finally deployed as a hybrid. And this worked to great effect, given that he's worked both on the inside and the outside. He had touchdowns in 9 of 13 games, and he had sub 50 receiving yards just once all season. The reason for such consistency and such good yardage, using that versatility to move him up and down the line to probe for weaknesses and then exploiting those weaknesses. Example in point from this season, week 4, playing against Tennessee SEC opposition, played predominantly on the outside, about 65-70% of his snaps on the outside, because they found a weakness with the outside corners
where they couldn't deal with his breaks and his short area speed, and he kept getting into space and being able to exploit their coverage, and it worked all game for him. But then the next game, he plays against Temple, he plays 90% in the slot, and he makes life a nightmare for their safeties because they found it very early on. He was able to get the favorable matchups. They moved him in there. They kept him in there, and they kept going at it. You find the leverage with him, and he is your lockpick that opens up the door. And overall, in his college career, he's ended up playing 60% in the slot, 40% on the outside. It's nearly an even balance between what he's done. Obviously, he has the frame at 6'3" and 185 to play on the outside, which is where he will at the next level. But you need that versatility in there. What do you like next about him? His hands. He has one of the safest pairs of hands in this draft class. He has just 9 drops on 433 targets. It's a measly 2.8% when you take all his receptions into account. But you go this year, his best year, he went down to 1 drop on 121 targets. Now, when you take his 89 catches into equation, it's a 1.1% drop rate. His technique and concentration, immaculate when it comes to his catching. It's great. The blocking and the system that he comes from, specifically for us, UTSA's offense, it does not function without its run game. You think back to the Sincere McCormack years, they run the ball heavy, they pass after, got a good quarterback there. They've won back-to-back championships in the CUSA. They've won 9 games in the American this year. A step up in opposition for them. It shows you how well that offense has been operating. And it's not just the guys on the offensive line, it's the receivers. These guys who come in, do the dirty trench work. Cephas has played 1,700 run blocking snaps alone. Like, that's more than some guys do in their entire collegiate career. This is a wide receiver 1 caliber guy who goes in and does the dirty work first and foremost for his running backs, for the guys there before thinking about himself. He's the first in the trench there. His 6'3" frame, his tough as nails style of play makes him very adept for that sort of perimeter blocking that you want out there. And it's a lot better than a lot of these guys around him in this upper day 3 echelon category. If you want to have a look, an example of it, go watch the Shrine Bowl when Frank Gore rips off his 50-yard touchdown run at the start of that game. Who's the guy blocking on the perimeter to spring him? It's Josh Cephas. You see him get the guy, levers him to the outside, leaves this massive chasm that Frank Gore can just run through and go to the house. And Gore's not known as the speediest guy in the world. That's kind of the gap and the leverage he gave him with that. And as a Lions thing, that's what you're looking for when it comes to your receivers. But one of the biggest things for me, and it was funny because I was chatting about this with Gerald yesterday, this is attitude and loyalty, which takes you into the mentality of a player. You want a player who's got the mentality to play for us as well. So Cephas, he is a lifelong road runner. He's been there 5 years. There have been many attempts by the Power 5 to pull him away from that program, but it's a program that's shown him a lot of loyalty given what's going on. Drafting him out of high school when he was a quarterback, he didn't get a look. They gave him an opportunity, and after his arrest as well, which we're going to talk about shortly, but he's repaid it. We were talking about NIL and this with Coach Huggins yesterday. Do you want to be the guy for the team who invested in you out of high school, who put their faith in you, and you want to do great things for them? Or do you want to transfer out and be a guy for another team who had no interest in you when you came out? The guys who stay and are loyal to these programs, I find they've got some of the best attitudes going out of everybody. It offers a window into the mindset of a player. He could have taken a big wad of money, gone to a bigger program, like Zachary Franklin did when he went to Ole Miss. And he could have thrown all that stuff away with UTSA. He didn't. He chose the harder road. He chose to stay. He had to earn his redemption at that program because, as I say, arrested in 2022, had a lot of goodwill to gain back with that program. But he stayed there, and he did turn into the guy because he's their leading receiver of all time now. That's the right attitude that I want to see from a receiver. That's, it's a prerequisite for me. So, like I say, he's overcome sheer adversity. Late 2022, he was charged with a DUI. People are immediately going to go, oh, God, no. Like, don't want anything to do with that. He overturned his vehicle. He was suspended for their bowl game. He had to sit and watch his team lose that, kind of knowing full well that he was a big reason behind that because it's a big part of the offense there at the time. But you look at the way he responded again. He responded the right way. He admitted all fault with this. You see so many guys who kind of like, they don't take responsibility for this. He refused to take his starting number back for the season after knowing that he had to earn it, thought it was a privilege, and he had to work back through effort in spring training all throughout that offseason. And the team unanimously gave him that number back when this season started. Like, he had to earn that and he had to work through the hard way. He has worked his ass off and he's been incident-free since. I truly believe it was a one-off for him. But he had another problem this year as well. He had a three-headed monster there, I mentioned, in their receiver core, but Zachary Franklin transferred out to Ole Miss. Courier Clark had a full season-ending injury, didn't even play. So as well as been under all that pressure from his arrest and from trying to get the redemption back there, UTSA moved to a better conference against better opposition, and suddenly he was springboarded to wide receiver one, like the senior guy. It was all put down onto him. And he responded when a lot of guys would have folded. He had his best season, 1,151 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns. He was playing inside, outside, blocking, doing everything you want of him. That attitude and that work ethic to respond from such an incident, for me, really says a lot about the character of the player. He's a good receiver, and I think he's got the character in there as well. And then you've got the durability. He has never missed a game of college football due to injury. He's only ever missed one game, the suspension for the arrest. Given the amount of trench work he does, verging on 2,000 run blocking snaps, he plays as an outside perimeter receiver with contested catches and that is astounding durability to never miss a game. 56 games he's played altogether. So you've got to think, and he even played the bowl game this year. A lot of guys opt out. Played against Marshall, 7 for 102 and a touchdown. He went in, gave everything to that program, which I believe he will going forward to the NFL team he comes to. Now, I said there's a lot of good stuff in there. What are the issues? Level of competition, that's one. Always been a group of five guy, mostly a CUSA guy, and that's considered to be the weakest conference of the group of five. So questions will be asked about the ability to step up against better opposition. However, for these guys, you have to look a little deeper than this. It's never so simple. Guy might play at a lower level, but does he have good tape against better opposition in the non-cons where you can see what he can do against better opposition? Just so happens they played 2 Power 5 games this year. See if there's a stat lines from those 2 games. So they played against Houston from the Big 12, 9 receptions, 123 yards and a touchdown. And then they played in the SEC against Tennessee. And, you know that's a really good team. 7 catches, 58 yards, and a touchdown. And that was with a backup quarterback because Frank Harris was injured at the time. And again, like I said earlier, his ability to separate from Power 5 corners, like the touchdown was amazing. It was in the red zone. He had a breakout to the corner of the end zone. Like, he had 3-4 yards of separation from this guy. Like, he killed it in those games. He went to the Hula Bowl. He went to the Shrine Bowl. He was one of the best players in practice both weeks. Every time he's come into contact with better opposition, he has shown out. He is not a G5 standard player. So, yeah, the competition concerns will be there, but he's shown that he can do it, and he's got the tape to back it up. The route tree does need expansion. Given that he's a hybrid as well, that might be a little bit of an odd problem, but he, like a lot of receivers, has his preferred ways of winning, and he's very good at what he does. But coming up to the NFL, it's going to need to expand, but so many of these guys do. Like, that's not a problem exclusive to him. His biggest problem is his skill set. So day 3 UDFA is what he's predicted at the minute. What do those guys need to get onto an NFL roster? Special teams, or kick return ability, something like that in his arsenal. But in his 5 years, he's got 12 returns for 55 yards, and he's only had one season where he's got into double figures for special teams snaps. So for me, he's in this really weird gray area where he is a really good receiver. He is better than day 3 as a receiver, but he doesn't have those little intangible bits that make day 3 guys desirable to programs, so he's going to need to show out for that. He has done in the bowl games, etc., but still some way to go there. Obviously, the arrest. Some people are just not very forgiving about this, but again, like I've said, digging down into the person, I think it's a one-off incident. I really don't hold that against him. It's an adolescent error. They do it. And also, he's a super senior. He's 23, so he's a little on the older side. But for me, watching everything I have about him, I've been sold on him for a very long time. You will not find a better receiver in day 3 of this draft, period. For me as a receiver, he should be a day 2 guy. And I think that if he was to get onto a roster right away, I think he would get himself high enough of a depth chart where that lack of special teams ability doesn't matter. I think you can get him as a wide receiver 3 on a roster there. Like I say, you got the versatility, you got the blocking, the system he works with is good for the NFL. It will vault him far enough up a roster there. So I love Joshua Cephas. I just don't know why people are not talking about. I think it's helmet scouting personally, but he's got everything you want at the next level as an outside guy. I love him, and I hope he gets taken out, and I hope he comes to us. I think he'd be the absolute perfect guy for our system. So I'm sorry I've rambled, but he don't get any love whatsoever, and I've given him his moment here. Joshua Cephas is a sleeper, and whoever gets him is going to be very, very lucky to get him.
Ash, have you seen any of Cephas?
I've seen a bit because UTSA are one of my guilty pleasure, like smaller schools in inverted commas. Obviously, they are a good team to watch, and I'm just pulled up Cephas's profile in NFL Draft Buzz, which is one of the ones I used to aggregate. And guess who they have as his top player comparison? Puka from last year. So it just makes sense. There's something there. Those sort of day 3 guys who get undervalued because of the helmets, but then hit the ground running. And got it right last year with Puka. This year with Cephas. I can see it happening. But yet it is a bit difficult because, as you say, as you can see me like saying it with day 3 guys, you usually need the special teams. That's one of the reasons Green hasn't really done much for us, because he did a bit of special teams at UNC, but not a lot. So we've had to train him there. It might be a similar path with Cephas, at least year 1. But yeah, I won't be surprised if year 3, year 4 of his rookie contract, Cephas is a team's wide receiver 2, potentially a 1, depending on how their system is, because he is that good of a receiver. Like, we all love Zachary Franklin last year as a sort of sleeper wide receiver. Cephas is just as good, and as Ant alluded to, didn't kind of throw it away to chase the bag for NIL. Like, I'm not as harsh on NIL as everyone else here, probably. Maybe because I support the team that probably uses transfer portal the best. But yeah, Cephas stayed with UTSA, showed his loyalty, and was rewarded with it, with absolutely great year where he was the featured guy, and he should be going higher than where he's valued on draft boards, because he's like 200th. This is a guy that should be in the 100s, like late day 2, early day 3, at least.
I was going to welcome Ryan into the show because he's definitely joined, but I don't. His camera's just gone off, so I'll say hello to him and just. Oh, he's back. Oh, before he's dying. How you doing, Ryan?
Evening, I'm all right. How are you guys?
Good. Well done for getting all the way back despite the puncture.
Yeah, it's been a long day, and it's safe to say that is my last away game of the season. I'm not putting myself through it again this year.
You know you didn't lose, by the way. Matt said you said you'd lost. Did
No.
you leave before the penalty?
No, but it was as good as a loss.
I'm just going to run you through the players we've talked about just to see if you've got any insight on them. So we've talked Javon Baker. Don't know if you have any thoughts on Javon Baker.
The outside Central Florida product, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like him, yeah. I think he fits that size of a... I think he'd be a prototypical X. Like I said, that's kind of what I'd like him to... Well, I think he's got the build and the frame to do it. I think he's got the skill set right now. But coming from that offense that was primarily run dominated, or like the run would feed the pass for John Rice Plumlee. So I feel like a more pro-style offense, he will struggle to build that quick. Like I said, expanded route tree as well. He's probably going to have to pick that up because they didn't ask him to do too many things, like I say there, that are outside of his repertoire. But I could see him learning it. I'd say what day 3, something like that. I say later products, like say maybe. But no, I don't mind the skill set he's got. He's got physical strength, at least. I trust him as a blocker because blocking wide receivers are very important in that central Florida offense because they'd run outside the tackles an awful lot.
And then I promised you that I was looking through some FCS products, so I had a look at Hayden Hatton and Jermaine Jackson from Idaho, and Brevin Easton and Julian Hicks from Albany. I don't know if you have any thoughts on any of those players.
I don't know any of them, but I do like the Idaho. The Idaho Vandals this year were incredibly good and had a good playoff run, and their offense was firing on full cylinders for most of the year. So yeah, and Albany, like I said, they had a good playoff run as well. Like I said, for a strong opponent offense.
And then the guy that Ant was just talking about was Joshua Cephas from UTSA.
Yeah, Joshua, like I say, his off season's been overshadowed by a felony or a charge against him. But for me, he offers things that a lot of these guys don't have, which is experience. Like I say, he's a well-rounded, well-travelled player. He's got good length. Like I said, there's good size. He can win. He can play on the outside at the next level. He has shown that with strong hands and got contested catchability. So he's physical at the point of contact and can high point a ball. So he's everything we should be looking at, in my opinion. And I don't really care that he got in trouble. If I'm perfectly honest, like it's water for ducks back. It's the first time I believe anything's actually happened. So yeah, I don't feel like many people will hold it against him.
So with the players that you've covered, I don't know, we've not chatted, but I'm presuming that you've just got the 2 that we discussed and not that extra third one.
I've got the 2, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay. I will say let's go with your first one in that case.
Yep. So first, I've got Luke McCaffrey, the senior wide receiver from the Rice Owls, former Nebraska Cornhusker, and this kid has got stronger genes than Levi's. Like I say, former quarterback brother, Michigan fans will know well, Dylan. His other brother is a former NFL wide receiver, I believe, spent time with the Packers. That's Max. His other brother is Christian McCaffrey. Well, that speaks for itself. And his dad is a former NFL wide receiver, Ed McCaffrey, who I believe had a good long stint with the Denver Broncos for a period. So it was kind of in his DNA that he was going to be a wide receiver. But it's taken a long time to get there. Like I say, he's not been a full-time wide receiver for only 2 of his 4 years. So he has had all the measurables from the combine: 6'2", 198 pounds, 3 1/4-inch arms, and a 9 5/8-inch hands. A very nice 4.46 40 with a 1.52 10-yard split. So he's pretty shifty. 36-inch vert and 10'1" broad, both totally set fine. 6.73 cone and a 4.02 20 shuttle yard. So athletically tested very well. At the NFL Combine, where they give grades, he got 5.96, which I think falls between eventually will be like a serviceable starter. That's kind of like what they give, but I take them with a pinch of salt. So in his career, he has played wide receiver, he has played running back, he can play special teams, and he was called upon for about 6 or 7 games to be an emergency quarterback. Now, it didn't go well. Like I say, he threw 5 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. But he did complete 88 of 152 passes. That is over 150%. So he has practiced. I think in high school as well, he had potential to be a quarterback. But this guy is right now, he's a do-it-all, jack of all trades, master of none. So career rushing between those 4 years was 157 carries, 927 yards, 7 touchdowns. Receiving, but this is only realistic 2 years. That's 131 receptions for 1,732 yards and 19 touchdowns, to be fair. He was a huge part of the Owls offense. So he was the go-to guy this year for JT Daniels, like I say, and I really like him. Like I say, I've currently got him going between 75 and 105. So a mid to late round 3 and an early round 4. So he has got yak potential. So this guy primarily will line up out of the slot to begin with, because of the slender frame. One of his weaknesses, you don't want him blocking. Not just yet, like you say, physically, he lacks strength. And that means if someone bumps him or he's like unable to block, he can be shifted from his route kind of easily and he can veer a little bit off a course. But out of the slot, like you say, if you get him on a slant or a hitch or like an out or an in-breaking route, the yak is one of the biggest things he's got right now. So this guy has had the ball in his hands in every which way possible, and he's very comfortable in space. Like he's got a good, strong grip, gets the ball, and then he doesn't just look to go out of bounds. He looks to make things happen. He wants to make guys miss in the open field. It can be hard to tackle. Like you say, he's got a few bags of tricks. He can do a spin move. He's got a juke about him. So there is an arsenal there to work with that then can turn a 10-yard gain into like a 24-yard gain. And we have seen that over the year. Does not shy away from contact. So he took a lot of carries as running back. He played quarterback. He is fine catching the ball, lowering the shoulder because he'll catch a lot of balls across the middle of the field, and he knows there's a safety or a linebacker coming. He won't shy away or he won't drop the ball because he's scared. He will prepare himself for contact, get it, and ideally he will meet them at the same force they're coming in with. So he's strong in that sense that he's not scared. He won't shy away and he won't cause him to drop the ball. So yeah, right now he would be lining up from, like I said, I'd say 5 to 9 yards off the end of the line of scrimmage. I don't right now able to put him on the outside. Like I said, that lack of it's someone jamming at line of scrimmage, a bit more those physical outside press corners, he will struggle. Like I say, he's happily to run up them and then meet them at the point of contact, but they will do a bit better against him as a rookie from the line of scrimmage. So he's got the potential to start straight away, a bit like a Hunter Renfro started in the slot, and then showed that I can do a bit more stuff outside. He's got a kind of similar build to him, like I say, but I think he got more of a dynamic threat because I do believe to earn catches on the outside, he will have to return some kicks and punts. And in the All-Star games, he showed he can do that in the practices and the drills. They were happy to kick to him. He's very comfortable returning punts, and he has got that next gear that you need. When you get like 3 or 4, like he can kick up to that. If he hits the hole, I think he could do real well next level. So yeah, for me right now, he is a solid wide receiver 3 that could become a 1A, 1B, 2. Like I say, but you're only going to have to give up minimal day 2, early day 3 kind of capital for him. I think he could surprise you. Like I say, he comes from a good bloodline. He's a very hard worker. He's played at two teams where things were not good pretty much any of the time he were there. Like I say, he's struggled. He's been in some bad offenses, but he has done everything that's been asked of him to try and get his hands on the ball and make things happen. And he's had a good off season as well. Like I say, I feel like he'll work his ass off any program, and he won't just expect to have something delivered to him because of who he is or who his kin is. Like I say, he's not someone that goes out there and goes, I'm McCaffrey. Like he wants to prove to people, like I say, he's not just the brother of CMC, not just the son of Ed. Kind of wants to carve out a name for himself, which will be hard because those kind of comparisons will always come back to him. Like I say, I like Luke. I like the body of work he's got. I like the versatility he offers. Like I say, I think Ben Johnson is like him as well. I think you could do some pretty things with Luke. Like I say, there'll be some trick plays out there. Won't surprise me if he throws an NFL touchdown or a 2-point conversion at some point in his first 2 years after being a rookie. That's the kind of thing you'll get him to do. So, yeah. I think he's more well-rounded, but yeah, I don't know if he'll ever be an outside possession receiver, but I don't know if he'll ever need to be. You may never have to ask him to be.
Boys, have you seen any of Luke McCaffrey?
So I've lived the Luke McCaffrey experience vicariously through Ryan because like he's been watching him for years, so I get to hear a lot about this. But so I've taken more of an interest in recent. I really like him, and because again, sort of talking about the underdog type of guy, like Luke McCaffrey is the type of player who he keeps getting told like no. Like he started off as a quarterback in college, and then he's moved out to receiver, and because he's got the combination that like people tell him no, you can't do this, you're not going to be able to do that, And he kind of looks at them and goes, well, just who the hell do you think you are to tell me to do that? I'm going to go and do that. And every time sort of a question's asked of him, he answers it, because for a lot of time people thought, oh, he's going to be a fringe special teamer or something like that. And then he'll come up and he'll start making even more impressive plays as a receiver. You'll start seeing things from you've not seen before. He'll keep proving you wrong. And he's just one of those guys. He's just so easy to root for. Like, he's really genuine, down to earth guy. When you listen to him talk and that, and you're like, yeah, he's every time you say no to him, he's going to be like, screw you, going to prove you wrong. And I just love guys like that. But with Ray, he's got versatility at the next level potentially. I know he plays in the slot a lot, but he's played on the outside. He's made JT Daniels look like $1 million at Rice, and not many receivers did that in college, given all the fanfare he had. Probably his favorite target of the lot. So, his ability to raise his quarterback as well is a great thing. So, and that Rice team was fun, a fundamental part of it. So, yeah, I hope he ends up somewhere good. He'll get a good shot, and he will be a really good acquisition for somebody. If it's us, I won't mind at all, because I know what sort of guy we'll be getting with him.
No, Ash doesn't have anything to add. Neither do
Okay.
I. I saw him at the combine. I thought he looked good without popping off the tape. So I bow to you guys having superior knowledge on that. We're going to come back around to the start and go to Ash for your second guy.
Well, we've just discussed one wide receiver with NFL bloodlines. Let's discuss another. Someone who had a better quarterback in college, though. So, of course, we're talking about Brendan Rice, the wide receiver from the University of South California. Of course, the son of the legendary 49er, Jerry. So, as for the Raz, 7.09 with great size, with 6'2", 208 pounds, 9 and 2/3 hands, 33-inch arms, and he did 13 bench press reps, which is okay. Speed, good. 4.50 flat 40 with a 1.59 10-yard split. Good explosion numbers with 36.5-inch vertical and a 9'11" broad jump, but the agility, poor. 4.45 second shuttle and a 6.95 free cone. Not the greatest numbers, which means, according to Raz, his most comparable person, and props to anyone who actually knows who this is, Jerome Peake, the former Jets wide receiver out of Clemson, played for the Jets from 2015 to 2016 and did diddly squat. The only reason he's probably known is because he was a decent wide receiver too for Clemson during the Deshaun Watson period. So for PFF, Rice's 2023, he had a 77.8 offensive grade, 79.4 receiving, 81.6 pass block, 48.4 run block. Caught 45 of his 70 targets for 791 yards, 12 touchdowns, 36 first downs. He got 234 yards after the catch, dropped only 4.3% of his targets, but only had a 25% contested catch rate success, and he played around 12.6% of his snaps in the slot. And the game that I watched for him specifically was the game against Washington this year. 63.8 offensive grade, 61.1 receiving, 78.7 run block. He caught 2 of his 5 targets, though one of them was on a free. One of his drops was on a free play after a neutral zone infraction. So take that into account. 44 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 first downs, no yards after the catch, no drops, 0% contested catch rate, though he didn't really have one, and he played about 13% of his snaps in the slot. And his biggest strength, as you can probably guess from the fact he grew up around the game, he's just got a really damn good football IQ. The snap, one of his targets after the free play on the neutral zone infraction, he draws a DPI in the end zone on a fade, and which then gets USC to a first and goal on the 2-yard line. And then there's also a time when Caleb is pressured in the pocket, and he just manages to find space on a scramble drill and gets himself available to get a 20-yard gain instead of it being a sack. And again, makes sense because he grew up around the game. Probably one of the best route runners in the class. Like, so refined with his pass, with his foot control, most of his cuts, just really damn good at his route running. And on his touchdown, which again was in the end zone, it was about a 25-yard pass. Really good foot control, just to make sure he gets both feet down in the end zone, gets the ball in control for the touchdown. It's really good. And because he's got really good long arms and he's got good hands, he's a really good blocker as well. And he doesn't give up on these blocks, which you have to kind of with Caleb looking to run around in the pocket, and also with Lloyd as running back. They did lean on him quite a lot against Washington, so it did show up. And again, those hands are good for helping him win against press man and then against zone coverage. He's just an all-round great receiver, but his like elite calling card is the route running. But despite his track background, and again, without going too much into genetics, without that, he's not really a top tier athlete. Like, he has good long strides, but it takes him a while to get that long speed. And he's changed the direction, especially on those cuts. And when he has the ball in his hand, it's not as sudden as you'd like. So on some of his cuts, and when he's got the ball in his hand, he's trying to get yards after catch. He almost loops a bit when trying to get around defenders rather than making nice sharp cuts. But that's really the only like knocks on him you can have. Like, doesn't have great long speed. Change of direction, the agility is not the best, but other than that, damn good receiver. So my comparison for him, and it might be high praise, but I can see him turning into this kind of player. Davante Adams, just not a great athlete, not the biggest guy, but wins on route running, which is enough to become one of the best receivers in the league. So he's an X-star receiver, wins on his route running rather than any athleticism, physicality. He's currently the 18th ranked wide receiver and the 90th overall prospects according to Mock Draft database. I can see him going earlier than that. There's going to be a team probably that's going to fall in love with the route running and think we're the kind of team that can use that to our advantage. It might be us. We love Amon-Ra for his route running, his ability to get separation with that. He could fit the Josh Reynolds role for us because Reynolds, again, not the biggest athlete, not the biggest, strongest guy, but remember the early season streak where every single catch he made was for a first down or a touchdown. I can see him filling that kind of role, and he could become one, like sort of in that top 5 route runner stratosphere with Davante Adams, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, just one of those guys that you get him to run a route. He's going to do it. He's going to get open, and then you get the ball in his hands. So I can see him potentially exceeding his like potential draft pick if everything goes right for him.
Many thanks as well to David Ryan for subscribing to Tier 1 for the 25th month in a row. Many thanks, David. Says, hey to you. Boys, have you seen anything from Brendan Rice?
So I sort of have to fess up to start with and saying anyone who watches the college pod knows that I'm very biased against USC. They've been a bunch of frauds this year, and so maybe you can't take my words 100%, but for me, I've been underwhelmed given his pedigree and everything. Like, he struggles physically. Like, the Pac-12 is very physical. Like, when he's in press, he's not very good. When he gets space to operate, he's really good. But like, a lot of the defense has figured him out early. Like, you come up to the line of scrimmage, you put him under pressure, you get physical with him, he struggles. Like, a lot of those other USC receivers are a lot better at him. He would just phase in and out of games if teams got too handsy with him, if they got too aggressive with him. So, like, at 6'3" and his weight, I would expect a lot more of him. Again, this is why when, you're looking at these outside receivers, you don't want these pampered guys who, when the going gets tough, they get going. You want the guys who are just going to stick his head down, get in there and go after it all. And for me, yeah, you try and separate the dad and all that, and I have, and it's just like, I'm not sold there. Like, well, as I say, when he's in space, he's great, but you're coming up to the NFL. Teams are going to figure you out. They're going to get handsy. They're going to get aggressive with you. They're going to come up and play press if they know you're uncomfortable. You've got to get better at that. You get better at that, then there's something there.
Right?
I see a lot of people kind of like, they're pining over him. And for me, like I say, the talent, the frame, the size, the skill set, it's just not, well, it's not panned out as of yet. Like I said, the production for me doesn't match what I think it could be. Now, that's obviously got to be part of him coaching. Frankly, trying to live, I'd hate to be Jerry Rice's kid and play wide receiver. Like, you're setting yourself up for a fall, if I'm honest. Like, that is a difficult case, like I said. And USC, like I say, they're such a, like, God, being a fan of that team must be like a beautiful relationship. Like, it's love and hate in it. They're offensive. They've had terrible offensive coordinators. They've had terrible schemes. They've had shaky quarterback play. If he is the second coming, like I say, if he is going to rise up, then he'll have to do it pretty quickly. It feels like whoever takes him, like, he won't get that much time to learn. They're going to kind of throw him in the deep end. It's going to be like sink or swim. Where would I be comfortable? Like I said, I don't think I could use a second round pick on him, but I do feel like probably that's where people are leaning towards. There's buzz around him. It's probably a little bit rich. I'd rather go with someone a bit more polished, but he does have the potential to be one of the better rookie receivers in this class. If he lands on the right team, someone that's going to look after him and use his skill set best, and don't expect the world from him straight away, like I say. So, yeah, he feels like the kind of guy the Lions might take if he falls into the third round. If he falls that far, then I reckon some teams are probably clamoring for him.
Brendan Rice is someone I actually watched today because I knew that he was going to be talked about, and I managed to get round to him. So, obviously, he's only been a kind of 2-year full-time starter, moving over from Colorado in 2021. And
I think he could have used another year, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think so too, actually, personally, because I think he could have elevated himself quite a long way. But moving over from Colorado, USC in 2022, second fiddle to Addison, still get 611 yards. This year, 791, but 12 touchdowns this year. Like, that's nothing to be sniffed at. And especially when you're doing that because you've improved somewhere. So I think that a lot of the criticism which he's had through his college career is well warranted. And I think potentially he's turned a corner this year. What I saw from him on tape this season, especially in the most recent game he's played against UCLA in week 12, which is the game I watched of him, he was exceptionally physical. And I mean, UCLA were playing tight coverage on him, and he was making really tough catches in tight windows. And you know, having to be physical, cling on with big hits and all that sort of stuff, I thought he looked really, really good. So it's one of those things where show me it again, because I don't entirely trust that you have turned the corner, but I think you've put some stuff on tape that I really do start to like. One of those particular examples was he was kind of in between where the slot and the outside guy would be in a sort of intermediate area, and ran a kind of slight fade and just put on a dime by the quarterback, by Caleb. And the cornerback's with him all the way. I mean, Brendan Rice is not a separation guy, and if he is, he's going to do it through exceptional route running. But this was just the cornerback ran the route with him, and he just bullied him out of it, made him fall over without causing interference, and walked it in for a 74-yard touchdown. And I saw that again and again in this sort of game where he physically was imposing, which is weird considering the lack of strength which he apparently has. And I mean, he only did 13 reps on the bench. That's not exactly ideal for a 6'2" guy. So, you know, he's not put strength in the measurables. But then on tape, I thought he looked fantastic. He's slow to get to his top speed, which I really don't like because the top speed isn't great anyway, but whatever. The route running is excellent. And his attitude's fantastic. Like, so many of these guys. I watched 18 of these guys this week. He was one of the only few who was running his reps at nigh on 100% all of the time, even if it was a run play, even if it was a pass play designed to go the other way. He was putting in the effort, which was drawing attention from where the play was going. And so few guys at that level actually do that. So I would hate to be Jerry Rice's son. I'm right with you. But I feel like he feels that pressure and is actually really kind of putting it into his play. There's a lot more to come from him. Does he get there? I'm not sure. But I've got him pegged as a late round 2 pick, which is exactly where we're picking. I wouldn't be surprised if he was the guy, depending on what we do in round 1. it's one of those where, I mean, so my comp for him is he is going to be a better Josh Reynolds, which you actually mentioned in the first place, but a guy that's not exceptionally fast, but technically very sound and a good catcher. And I think that's where he's going to end up in the NFL. So I would be happy taking him in that range. If he ended up falling into round 3, I'd love to have him on the team because I think he fills a gap that we just don't have currently. I know a lot of people are saying that a guy who re-signed recently might be that guy, but I don't buy it personally. I think Brendan would be a big upgrade. All right. With that said, we'll move on to our next guy, which is, I think it was me next, wasn't it? So we're going to go on, and I've got to make sure to update the pinned comment so everyone can see who I'm talking about. And it's going to be Pittsburgh wide receiver Bub Means. Now, this is a really fun player. 6'1", dead, 212 pounds. PFF gave him a 71.1 grade this season. In terms of measurables, 9.71 RAS, but he didn't run the agility drills, which honestly I knock him for a bit. If he didn't run them, it's probably because you're not very good at them. But 4.43 40-yard dash, 19 on the bench, which is pretty good for a wide receiver, even at his builds. 39.5 vert and 10'2" broad. So pretty damn explosive, pretty damn big, pretty damn fast. So, you know, that's quite good to see. And he's had an interesting career. He's been at 3 different colleges. He was at Tennessee in 2019. 2020 year was cancelled due to COVID. He was the LA Tech starter in 2021 before being the starter for the last 2 years in Pittsburgh. So he's been in college the last 5 years, but has been around the joint a little bit. He's got some inside-outside versatility. So he was primarily wide this season, 563 wide reps, 45 in the slot. But in 2022, he was actually more in the slot than wide, 314 to 209. The outside reps in 2022 were taken by the 2022 UDFA Jared Wayne and the sophomore who's still there, I think, Kanata Mumpfield. This season, he had 41 receptions for 721 yards and 6 touchdowns. So I watched the game against Wake Forest, and a very smooth release, very nice footwork. Maybe needs to have a bit better securing the ball on contact. Kalen Carson put on a fantastic rep against him where he just hit him as the ball was getting there and jarred it loose. Don't like to see that, but there we go. But otherwise, he had other reps where he did much better with that. So under heavy pressure, incredible leaping snag to bring one in. He had a double move, which had just the most subtle movements that you could barely see, which allowed him to create a huge amount of separation. He's a willing blocker downfield, which is always good to see. He's got some handy feet after the catch. He's a guy that gets involved in the screen game. There's some suddenness in his breaks. He actually got the go-ahead touchdown with 90 seconds left on a skinny post. I actually think that Pitt lost this game to Wake Forest, if I remember rightly. There was one game I watched where a team went ahead with a minute to go and still lost. Maybe it wasn't this one, Ash, so don't quote me on it. But it was really impressive what I saw from him, despite the, I would say, relatively low grade that PFF rated him for. For a guy 6'1", 212, I didn't expect him to be able to move like he does. He really can box out guys, but he can beat them with the route running. The problem is that his route tree is slightly limited at the moment. There wasn't a huge amount of stuff over the middle. It was kind of hitches, quick outs, comebacks, that sort of thing. So there's room for growth with him. The problem about there being room for growth is, of course, he's been in college for 5 years. So how much more is there to come? I don't know. I don't like projecting growth for players that have been in the league for 5 years because it doesn't feel that great. Having said that, what he does so well that I can see that working because as an primarily outside guy with a little bit of inside versatility who can run all these quick outs and comebacks and whatever, which are just going to move the chains. And with the subtlety in his route running that he has, I really enjoy watching him play. Like I came in thinking, this is a guy projected as a UDFA. I think he's something like 300 on mock draft database or something like that. But I've got a high 4th round grade on him. So I can definitely see him potentially getting into sort of late day 2 territory, but I'd be more comfortable taking him at the top of day 3. And basically, even though I just said I don't like projecting him out, with that physical profile, 6'1", 212, 19 on the bench, explosive, and can run a 4.43, and his route running is very good for the routes that he runs. Just get him with a professional coach who's going to develop this guy, and I think the sky's the limit for Bub Memes. I really think he could do big things. Have you guys seen any of Bub Memes?
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier about the rep with Caelan Castle and Knocks It Loose. There was a similar rep a couple of weeks later against a certain team where he was about to absolutely burn us over the top. And then Ventral Cyprus managed to get up to him, knock the ball loose for a fumble, and saved a touchdown. Thank God he did that, because otherwise we lost. I did check. You are correct with the Wake Forest game. They scored with a minute and a half to go. And then with 7 seconds left, Wake Forest scored 15-yard touchdown to win the game 21-17. So good memory there. But yeah, I like Means obviously with Pitt kind of pivoting more towards a spread offense, as you mentioned, limited route tree. But he does have stuff. He has the tools there that, yeah, if you get him with the right kind of receiver coach who can teach him to run the other routes, you got a damn good player on your hands. He'll probably might never be a wide receiver 1 for a team in terms of targets. But again, for teams like ours where you don't have to be, you just have to be a good X-star receiver, he could be a damn good pick for us. And yeah, like I've got him higher than consensus. I think right now, as you said, on mock draft database, he's not the highest. He is 211th. Like you've got some guys above him who I would happily take him above. So yeah, I love Bub Memes, even though, yeah, played for kind of bad Pitt team this year. They've kind of fell off a bit since Pickett and everyone left. He did damn good on a bad team, so that stands out.
Right.
So in the fairness of, you know, balance here, Ash mentioned about Ventral Cyprus and how well he did against him. There was also a play in that game where he absolutely mossed the hell out of Ronaldo Green for a touchdown in the end zone. Like, man just went straight above him, flicked him out of the air, just played with him like he was a small boy. So in the interest of fairness, I feel like that needed to be mentioned as well.
I feel like playing with him like a small boy is not a clip you want to have.
Oh yeah, true. Thank you.
I mean, you know, for the sick-minded, they might think like that, but it was men versus boys. He absolutely mossed Ronaldo. I remember that very well. It was a great touchdown. So, yeah, like if you want teams where you know you're going to get physical wide receivers from, Pitt is the place you go. Definitely. I love Pitt. Usually the defense or Israel Abanikander. I don't really focus much on the offense, but like, you know, you're going to get a tough nut. You're going to get a hard ass from there. So, and like I say, he's really good in the end zone. When you get down there, a lot of DBs can't handle him.
Right, I saw you nodding your head as well.
See, I err on the side of caution. Me usually 5 years, 3 different schools. That's a big orange flag. That's 3 different schemes. He's coming out where, like you say, he's physical, but can you teach an old dog new tricks? That's my biggest thing. That he's definitely a day 3 product for me. Like you say, he's got upside, but I think I've seen his ceiling. That's not a bad thing. But I said, I think I know how much more some will get out of him. But yeah, there are names that I see above him, like saying the mock drafts and ranks. You think, no, he's a bit better than them. I reckon he'll definitely do a better job at blocking, like you say, and be able to spring a running back and getting downfield. And like I said, I think he'll work a lot better than that than some of the guys that before him. So he'll probably put in a harder shift and work harder. But yeah, I wouldn't mind him at the top of the third day. Like you say, I'd be all right with that. I think he'd like to fit with what we're trying to do. Like you say, we need guys good in the red zone. We need guys that are good physical at the point of contact and can win a contested catch or one of those 50-50 balls across the middle, and also able to hold their block long enough to stay in it so we can spring out a trap or a run or like I say, or a screen game. Like I say, I think screen games, bubbles, tunnel screens, they're probably where he's going to make his bread and butter. If he's able to just hold a guy for 1.5, 2 seconds, to give the guy some room. Like I say, it'll be a first down. So yeah, I think he's going to be someone. They're going to be real. Someone will cover that. Like I say, that does a lot of that short to intermediate stuff where you're asking the guys around them to be more selfless.
So I've just looked at that NFL Draft Buzz. Who can guess who his top player comparison is? The clue is he's on our team already.
Well, he's a deep threat. He goes 18 yards a carry.
Well,
no, I mean, Bub is. Bub
is
gets like 18 yards a carry, so per catch.
Is it DPJ?
No. With 84% player comparison, Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC.
What?
Yeah.
What?
The top
that's
player
bogus.
comparisons.
That's
It's
bogus.
based on their things. It's Amon-Ra. It's like in terms of his traits, Amon-Ra is 84. Second is Emir Smith-Marset, who obviously people
you couldn't get two more different people.
And then even worse, someone that I absolutely hate because he's a former Hurricane, Charleston Rambo.
Yeah, maybe stop using this player comparison
There's your
thing.
range. There's your range.
It's like when I do 23 and me DNA and they tell me I'm 5% Inuit, 1% like Klingon, and like 40% like.
Why? Why, Ryan? Why do you want to just end me? God. Okay.
None of those three make sense.
Okay.
I think it's because Amon-Ra had one of their best ever blocking things, and Means is up there for blocking. I think he's in like the.
That's just a lazy comp, though. Like they throw deep to Bub a lot. Like I didn't watch much of Amon-Ra St. Brown's go, but I know damn well that wasn't his thing. He's crossfield intermediate, so that's where Amon-Ra eats. Sleeps.
Amon-Ra, according to them, was 82% out of 100 on deep threat, with only 76 short and intermediate.
Whatever.
But Amon-Ra Amon-Ra gets rack though. Like it's not they're tossing it 30 yards. It's they'll toss it 10 and he'll run 30. Like.
Anyway, let's move this conversation on. Rye, I think Ant. Beg your pardon. Ant is up. My bad. Ant, who are you going for?
Oh God, we're talking about Amon-Ra. Right, okay, so this is another one of my favourite guys who I've coveted for quite a bit of time. Never for the Lions, but more and more recently, I've been kind of open to the idea, and it's the Yak Master himself, Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky, 5'11", 210 pounds. I actually got to hear a good deal about him on Saturday's show because Gerald scouted him at the Shrine Bowl for the Shrine Bowl. So it's kind of nice to hear him back some of this up. But this is a guy who runs like a receiver and he hits like a halfback. He's another lifer like Cephas was. So 4 years with the Hilltoppers. He's 259 of 366 on targets for 3,016 receiving yards and 29 touchdowns. Average yards per reception, 12.5, so not bad there. But he comes from a completely different system to Cephas. Western Kentucky, they play straight up air raid football. There is more air traffic in Bowling Green where they play than Heathrow at Christmas. They literally just toss the ball everywhere. So Corley's calling card, it's his yak ability. In 2022, 975 of his 1,282 receiving yards were yak. To put into perspective, that was 300 more yards than the next best guy in the nation. Like no one else breached 700. He has this real elite mixture of explosion and stop-start, which he just uses to surprise defenders, get them off balance, and allow him to get quick separation, which is how he's able to create so much yak going forward. Once he's free and he's got the ball in his hands, he takes his 210-pound frame and he transforms into a running back. The only difference being, instead of facing a line of big old dirty 300-pound defensive linemen, he's managed to isolate himself with a 180-pound DB who he's got 30 pounds on. Like, you can imagine how difficult it is for these smaller guys in the backfield to be able to bring him down. Very hard,
That's why he gets so much yards after the carry. He possesses the speed to straight up win vertically down the field as well, which a lot of people don't really associate with him because he likes to do the more intricate stuff down the middle. But if he just wants to run a simple go from the slot, he will, and he will beat you downfield. Again, sort of a benefit of the air raid system. You get a lot of opportunities that way. He's always played predominantly in the slot. 92% of his career collegiate snaps have come in the slot. But this year, this is where he's become a little bit more interesting. Western Kentucky started using him on the outside a bit more because he is very strong, like 210 pounds. He's got a lot of strength to him. They started experimenting with him on the outside. And he started making plays there as well, getting him in more in contested catch situations, getting him up against these guys in press especially. He's really good against press. Because again, with his explosion, his strength, he's got a really good get off. He can beat guys and he can create separation for himself down the line. He's had growing pains. Admittedly, it's the first year he's really done it, so it's to be expected, but it's added a new niche to his game that you've not seen before, and that increases his scheme versatility at the next level. And as well, they've started using him in motion as well. They're just starting to tap his potential in motion, bringing him across the formation, manufacturing touches out for him wide on screens, etc. And he's looked really good doing so. So it kind of feels like they've only just began to tap into the well of what he is. Now, a lot of people, they do say he is in, and I don't do lazy comps, he is in the Deebo Samuel vein in how you can move him all over your system, you can get him in space, and then his strength will do the talking after the catch. He is in that vein of player. That is what he could be. There is a lot of development to go to get there. So again, like him and Western Kentucky, they've been beaten up with the air raid on the CUSA, one of the weaker G5 conferences. So you've got to take that into consideration. But again, like Cephas, you have to dig into his non-con tape. How has he done against better level opposition? They played against Ohio State this year, and Ohio State, for as much as people hate them, they have 4-star, 5-star DBs. They love to recruit their defensive backs there. 8 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown. He played really well. He was able to get separation against some good defensive backs. He's got the smarts and he's got the IQ to do it against better level opposition. He also registered a hundo against Troy, and people might think, no, that's not a big thing, but Troy is the best defense of the group of 5 by far. You've got guys like Reddy Stewart's coming to the draft this year. It is very difficult to get anything on them. He had about 120 yards on the day and a touchdown as well. So when you're looking at him playing the better level opposition, he's not falling off. He's not just beating up on weak teams. He's beating up on good teams as well. The air raid also does present issues. So Western Kentucky, they barely run the football. He has 500 run block snaps in 4 years. And like I said, Cephas had 1,700 in 5. Like, when you come up to the NFL, you've got to do the dirty work as well as the flashy receiver work. So he's obviously not done as much when it comes to the trench warfare. What he has done, he's done very well. He does look good, but it's in small snippets. He's going to need to do a lot more of it at the next level. Does he have the physicality to stand up to that and still be able to do his receiving? Initial signs say yes. The route tree again needs expansion. It needs polishing. But again, he's only moved to the outside this year. So that part of his game is still developing. But again, you can see the raw ingredient tools that he has to be able to succeed out there. So you need the nous and you need the technique when you come to the NFL. He's not really needed that in his career so far. And a lot of guys have that when they come up to the next level. So it needs work. But again, it's easily fixable on there. And like I say, the lack of true outside work, you've got some issues. He's had 6 drops this year. Like, that's more than the rest of his career combined. Because he's been on the outside, because he's been in a lot more contested catch. That concentration's just tested a little more than getting it over the inside of the field. You've got to be a bit more careful. But again, these are growing pains for a guy who's discovering like new parts of his game. It's a little underdeveloped because he's not played there. But again, you've seen he can do it. He may be small school, but with his production, with his rack, he's going to immediately draw attention from NFL teams, rightly so. Like, we have Amon-Ra. He's known for his run after the catch, his yards after the catch. He plays in exactly that same vein. So that will get him on an NFL roster and get him playing right away while you unlock all facets of him as a player. His ceiling, it's Debo's versatility and Amon-Ra's rackability put together as a player. As Coach said yesterday, he could be in a league of his own, the type of player he could become from the system he's come from. He could be truly special. He's going day 2. If he comes here, I actually wouldn't mind it. I think he fits our system really well, and I think our system could do with another guy like him. Goff loves these guys you can get the ball to, get the yards after. I would actually not mind him here as much as I have previously. So Malachi Corley for me, he's a wide receiver built like a running back who will get you yards once the ball in his hand, and he will be incredibly versatile in a year or two. So go get him. He's really good.
Have you seen anything from Malachi Corley?
Yeah, lots. As you mentioned, I love air raid football. With quarterbacks, doesn't really transition to NFL. But for me, for wide receivers, it don't bother me. Rashee Rice came from SMU. Tank Dell came from Houston. Notorious air raid where they literally just go out there and they might throw it 40, 50 times a game. I try to run them. For a wide receiver, it don't bother me. He is used to a heavy workload and a large volume of offense. And yeah, does his best stuff short to intermediate. Get him the ball, like I say, within like 10 to 50 yards line of scrimmage, and then let him turn upfield and let him then do what he does best. That's make people miss. That's wriggle out of arm tackles, or like when they try to grab his ankle and he's able to get away. He's able to put the brakes on, stop on a dime. He can change direction. I think that's where he'll work best. Like I say, the shallow to intermediate routes. Deep ball, he's got it if he wants it. Like I say, some of them will come and go. Like I say, the drops are normally, like I say, when they're deep and he can get in behind you, they will be more glaringly obvious. But for me, call it someone that's rising up boards a lot quicker than a lot of people. I've seen his name on Twitter a lot recently. People are starting to garner a bit more interest. The buzz is building a little bit around him. Like I say, he's small, but he's compact, a bit like a Skoda. Like I say, Skoda receivers, they're a good durable car. They're not too big, not too heavy, but they can take punishment. They can take a bit of impact, and they can still come up and bounce it around him. Yeah, I agree that, like I say, start off inside, work his way out. But for me, a lot of motion at line of scrimmage. I reckon you'll move him around, try to get defensive backs to follow him through traffic. They will struggle to keep tabs on him because he's very shifty. Once he gets in between those, like I say, the backers, the safeties, probably where you want him. Try getting like crossing routes, try get guys to collide. He'll tie people in knots. Like I say, do we have him already? Could we accommodate him? I think we probably could accommodate him in offense as well. Like I say, why not? Let's just play spread. Right, so just have 4 receivers, just put him either side. Like I said, I think it'd be really fun to watch. He has got a great body work, and I think someone is going to really enjoy him and what he does at the next level. I think it's going to be really fun to watch.
Ash?
For me, he's got to land in the right place. I agree that here might be. My fear is he won't. Because I agree he does have Debo Samuel upside, but if he doesn't land in the right place, it's the next Laviska Shenault, because he was someone else who came out that similar sort of play style, yards after the catch. You can use him everywhere. He was in the backfield and that, built like a running back at receiver, and bad Jags team. Now he's stuck on a bad Panthers team. If you can refine the route running, because again, that's what Debo had to do. He managed to do it. If you can do that, and I agree we can here because we've done it with other people, it could work out. And yeah, having that sort of spread system here where you could have him and Amon-Ra lined up in the slot, and then DPJ, like Sam Laporta out as the X, because we've done that with him a bit this year, use him there, and then Gemma on the other side, and Gibbs in the backfield. Teams won't be able to contain that. But that will have to be a specialized package at first, and we'll really have to work on that route running because, fortunately, because he's both been in the slot, that is a bit of a knock him because he has a limited route tree right now. If we can expand that and get him doing everything, he could be the next Debo Samuel, and he could be the perfect fit here. San Francisco, dare I say the Chiefs, imagine there somewhere that can use him right. He could explode. If he goes to the wrong place, you think, oh yeah, here's all the traits. Let's see what we can do with him. if he goes to the Panthers, they're saying that because they do need receivers. If he goes there, he's going to flame out, unfortunately, and it's really down to the fit for me. So like, I love him, but I'm gonna have to wait to see where he goes because he does have a range of outcomes right now, and it does scare me a bit.
He could be a Pro Bowler with the Dolphins. Like they
True.
absolutely love guys like that. I would expect they'd be one of the first teams knocking on his door if they want another receiver. But like in that motion heavy type, right away he would fit so well there. But obviously we don't want him to end up in a good situation because we don't want the Dolphins to be that good.
True.
Sorry,
Just wanted to shout out Brent, who super chatted $2 and said, "Second round curse is over. Branch / Laporta. Thanks, Brad. Thumbs up emoji. Cheers, Brent. Appreciate you." And I actually watched Malachi earlier today against Ohio State. Very impressed, but basically just agree with everything you said. I mean, his football IQ is very high. There was a double reverse that was meant to be run where he was running the initial reverse, and it was blown up. There was a DB who had read the double reverse and had got in front of the guy he was meant to hand it off to coming the other way. And Malachi, instead of just running the play, saw what happened, pulled it, and took it for a 1-yard loss, which was the best of a bad situation. But lesser IQ people are going to just brain deadly kind of do what you're meant to do in that situation, which is chuck the ball up to the man who's doing the double reverse. And that would have gone for a pick 6 or a fumble 6. I don't know what a double reverse handoff would have. I guess it would have been a fumble 6, but whatever. Yeah. Otherwise, just a lot of screen work. From the scouting reports that I've read, he doesn't have a problem against press man. But with his frame at the NFL level, I don't know whether he would still be able to win against press man. If he can, then I don't see any reason why he can't work on the outside. So let's see what happens with him. I've got a high 3rd round grade on him just because like you guys were saying, it's got to be to the right situation, because I can see him going the way that Rondale Moore went. And I know Rondale Moore is not the same player because he was a lot smaller, but Rondale was a lot bigger weight-wise compared to his size, like Malachi is. And Rondale was so massively misused at Arizona that he's basically a non-factor, got traded for a bunch of peanuts. But Rondale Moore is a damn good player if you put him in the right situation and you actually scheme things up for him. Malachi, you had to get him in motion to get him moving quickly, and that really gave him a lot of free releases, and that really helped. Or you've given him wide receiver screens. It's all up to the OC. With whatever offensive coordinator gets his hands on him, put him in a good situation, he'll be fantastic.
If you run a motion system and you're in need of a slot receiver right now, that's where you go, because he can immediately play there. And he will immediately get you results there whilst you train him to do everything else. That is the thing there. So, like, I can't think off the top. Like, maybe San Francisco would be interested in him as well, because they like a lot of stuff like that. And he doesn't really need to start there right away, so you can wait a little bit. And, of course, you've got the prototype there with him, who you can sort of base it off. So,
I see the Bears being interested in him as well, because they don't have anyone like him at the moment. They've got rid of a lot of players who could do that sort of thing. I think he would actually provide something that they don't currently have that they are looking for. But
I want him to play well. Like, it's like when they ruined that. Yeah, that would be good. Like,
they like to motion him in and out, don't that speed out. Like, he's gonna love speed out. Is Malachi Corley.
I want to root for him because like when the Bears took Daz Newsome and they ruined him, and like I loved him. And then he just went to the situation where they killed it. I'm like, no, I don't want the Bears to kill more receivers that I like. Let him go somewhere where we can watch him from afar and be good.
Slight disagreeing. The Bears have Velus Jones Jr., who's basically Corley light. So unless they want to upgrade on that as their wide receiver 5.
I really hate Velus Jones Jr. I think he's crap. But anyway, many thanks to MileMarker301 for the $20 super chat. Says one pride line emoji. Appreciate you, MileMarker. One of the biggest supporters of the show. Your support is much, much appreciated. Right. Moving on to my next guy. I erroneously said last time it was Ryan's. This time it definitely is Ryan. Up for your second man.
I've got Jacob Cowing for the senior. So a couple of years at University of Texas El Paso Miners before for getting his dream move to Jeff Fisher, the Arizona Wildcats, and upgrading to Glenn DeLora and Noah Peter as his quarterback. This kid really did land on his feet falling in this system. Like I said, the measurables, unfortunately, have not been kind. I've seen him listed like 5'10" on the website. He came in at 5'8" and 168 pounds, with only 29 and a quarter inch arms and 9-inch hands. He's small. He's built like a Polly Pocket.
Sub 30-inch arms. Shit.
Yep. His NFL combine grade of 5.87, so potential backup or special teamer. But testing and everything else was just phenomenal. A 4.38, he blazed a 40-yard dash. The 154, 10-yard, 36-inch vert, which isn't bad because that's what Luke McCaffrey did at 6'2". He's got explosion in his bottom half, and a 9'11" broad jump is very good for someone with 5'8". He's got short little legs. So the 702 free cone and a 432 20 shuttle. So yeah, he's twitchy, he is fast, he's got a nice little explosion out of his waist, and in a straight line, he's like Speedy Gonzalez. So yeah, it didn't come together for him at the minors, and he did struggle. But when it came for the 2 years at Arizona, so for a collective as a career, 316 receptions for 4,477 yards, 33 touchdowns. Lack of rush and return yards, which he didn't do it there. Like 29 in total combined returns for 132 yards. He would have been a much more dynamic returner to offered him the ball, if I'm honest. And 12 carries for 102 yards and 1 rushing yard. But 7 career tackles. There were a lot of turnovers in his time in college. So the first thing straight away is speed. If you look at him, I call him watermelon sugar because he's best going in one direction. Like I said, and that's forward. Like I said, this guy is a deep ball specialist. So he has got the ability from a standing start or a motion to literally blaze past guys. Like you say, he does it with the slightest of twitches. He can go inside, outside on a fade route. And then when the ball drops, he's got when you've got it where you can track a ball through the air and you know which shoulder it's supposed to come over and which way it's supposed to look. A lot of guys don't have it. He's got it. Like I say, he knows without looking back which way he should stick his hands out and which shoulder the ball should come over. And like I say, when those two things come together, when the ball comes over the right shoulder, it catches it, it's passed. 33 touchdowns. He's money. Like I say, he is a touchdown machine. Like I say, he has put some of the best in the country to shame defensive backs, and he's got that extra speed that when he catches it, not many guys catch him in a foot race. It's too late if he's got him behind you and got the ball. Like I say, he is also on like the intermediate to medium routes. Like I say, the size, he knows how to use his size. Like I say, if guys try to tackle him too high, he can kind of wriggle out of it. Like I say, a bit like when people try to tackle David Montgomery. Like I say, he understands the leverage and size he's got to use for the balance he's got because he's only small and slender. If you try to grab his ankles, he's able to yank them away and they're just left of catching a cloud of dust. So the yak is something that he has just got in spades. Like I say, this guy he's a walking home throw weapon. The struggles are intermediate to shallow. He's very twitchy, like say, like on a hitch. He has to get down and sit and find the hole a bit quicker. Like I say, he knows contact's coming and that's going to be inevitable for him, but he's a bit like, he needs to be more polished on stuff that requires him to stop and start and turn to look back at the quarterback. He's a little bit too anxious. He's a little bit too fast to do. And he drops the ball sometimes. And when he drops the ball, if it's on a deep route or if it's on where he's got to catch it and then turn, he's already thinking about turning round and turning upfield. And those lack of concentration receptions, they do hurt him sometimes. So it can be crucial downs. Physicality, don't have him catching the balls across the middle like digs and drags, unless he's got like comprehensive medal cover. Like he's just going to get eaten up by like someone like Bobby Wagner or Tremaine Evans. Like they'll just lower the shoulder and you're asking the ball to be fumbled. So this is a guy that is very speed specific. He's built, but what he offers like athletic wise, and like he's a little bundle of energy. Like I said, that needs to work out to control it. Some will love him, some will hate him. And I never make comps because I don't like to put comparisons out there and like myself fully believe in them. But for me, he's got exact size the explosiveness and how he should be used to Cavante Turpin. This is how he will be used next level. An elite, like say, jet sweeps, reverses, like say, bubble screens, and he's going to have to learn, or he's going to have to be made to return the ball. You can't be this small and that fast in a straight line without these kind of hands and not be a punt or kick returner. So for me, like I say, Turpin went a long way around of playing in Poland, ROTL, like I say, USFL, and then was an all-pro returner, like I say, but then he got more touches for Dallas, like I say, more touches in the backfield, like jet sweeps returns. Like this is how Jacob will have to go because of, like I say, the lack of physicality, the lack of size, I don't know, we'll see at the next level fragility if there is any. But the flaw is Jamal Agnew when the Lions tried to make him wide receiver and it just didn't work. We just struggled to get him going in offense. But like I said, the ceiling could be Turpin all-pro returner level. Like I said, where every time he touches the ball, it's magic. Or where it's like trick players hiding behind line of scrimmage is little. Like I said, there's lots of things you could do with him. But unfortunately for me, he's going to be a bit of a I don't know. Right now, he's a one-trick pony, and that's going to be the hardest thing to break that mold. You look at him and just think he's just got to run a 9, like I say, and it's going to be hard at next level to win on the deep ball constantly. And a lot of teams know that. So yeah, he's going to be one of those people. Like, can he do more? Can he be more? Because he ain't getting any bigger. Yeah. So for me, right now, he's probably a day 3 to a priority UDFA project, and that's only because of size. He's got production. He's got speed. He's got elusiveness. He's put it all together. I think someone will draft him. I think in the right offense, like I say, the right offensive mind, like you say, he'll be one of those guys that you kind of fear when you see him on the field. Like I say, you kind of have to respect what he's going to do at the next level. Probably back up a bit as where your corners might go from 7 yards to, oh boy, this guy's he's fast. Let's give him 12-yard cushion. And then you're just playing into his hands. Like I say, he's just going to get a run up on you. So yeah. Physical corners, press man, they could eat him alive, if I'm honest. Like I say, as soon as you get hands on him, he's not going to be able to break that contact. But if he's already past them, it's too late. So yeah, I don't know. I might throw a day 3 around, pick him. I probably won't go any higher. But if he does hit UDFA, hell, bring him in, like you say, because Khalif, we don't know how long he's got. Like you say, DPJ, we're going to need a special teams guy, someone to throw into camp and give some touches as a returner, especially with the new kickoff rules as well. This is the kind of guy that will probably benefit the most from that.
Have you guys seen much of Jacob Cowing?
Yeah, a fair bit for me. I mean, he's very intriguing for me. He's David Copperfield because he is with his Twitch routes and everything, he's like a magician. Out of all these guys we've had so far, he's one of the best route runners. And he's got Twitch, unlike any of the Twitch is elite. When you are that small, there's the only way you can thrive at that high at any level is if you have the technique and you have the Twitch and you've got the explosiveness. And he has it all in spades. You'll see him go up against bigger guys and he'll fake them out. He'll make his own separation. And there is a niche for that in the NFL going forward. The thing I saw about he's got 150 first down receptions in the last couple of years. I think it might be 3 seasons. When you have that speed and ability to separate so quickly, you're a chain mover. And at the next level, at the NFL level, there is a spot for that on a roster. If you've got a shit offensive line, or you got a quarterback who likes to get it out quick, you want to move the chains, you want to keep the ball going down the field, you can use him in the short game for that. And you can use him in motion in the backfield, as you said, to get him into space, to manufacture him touches, or you can hit the deep ball for him because he's so polished with his running. He will punish sloppy DB play, and he will get you results. Now, of course, with the size, the catch radius is not big, so your quarterback's got to be uber accurate. He's not gonna get he's not going to go up and do really physically contested catches and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter. If you can get the separation, we've seen with guys in this league, no matter how small you are, if you've got the marks and you've got the technique to be able to combat that, you will be fine. So I think there's a lot that people will like about it. I think there is a possibility he could go higher than day 3 potentially if a team is vested enough in him. We've seen the smaller guys like A-Chain came through tiny. Well, he's doing pretty well. And because they've schemed him right and they found a way in the system for him. And I think people are becoming less and less fussed about height. As long as you got the technique. For me, he's got everything you want. Twitch, speed, technique with his route running. And that means his height doesn't really matter. You put him with a good quarterback, I think he'll thrive. If you put him in a system again which utilizes him and gets him in space, I think he'll thrive. He's not got all those yards in college for nothing. And again, on a good team, and you think about the level of defense he faces every week. UCLA, Utah, Oregon. You see all the guys from Oregon coming through this year, and they're like, he's up against some of the best DBs in college. He's up against some of the best defenses in college. And what, 4,000 yards over? That's not a coincidence. That is not a mistake. He's flourished against some of the best guys in college. So I think he could be a very big surprise pick for somebody because someone will love that versatility give you, as I say, short yardage to move the chains because he can separate so quick when you're under pressure and deep downfield and motion.
Yeah, it just seems like a Shanahan kind of guy, as you said. It's Dolphins, 49ers again, those kind of teams. Maybe in that, at least it'd be kind of out the way for us. And obviously Pittsburgh just brought in Arthur Smith, and he likes to run the Shanahan scheme as well. But that would actually be a good fit there because you got Pickens, you got Najee as the big bruising guys, him as the finesse guy in special teams. It could work. But yeah, that I agree. That's probably Niche is going to have to start out with. Take the Turpin route and I guess the Agnew route because he did forge into a bit of actual play on offense for the Jags at least. Starting special teams, work your way up, refine the running bit, and that because, as you say, against press, you need to have packages against that. If you're not a big physical guy, you need the release packages. Work on that, and then eventually carve out a niche on offense as that kind of trick play guy, deep threat. Yeah, get him a few, and this is a throwback for everyone. Get him in a few of those Marvin Hall plays, like if you remember those way back.
Except be good.
Except for be good, exactly. Just get him started like that. Like obviously, yeah, the size is scary though. Like we're talking. I know I shouldn't, but I use myself and my own measurements as sort of baseline of like, if there's someone, if you're smaller than this, I'm very scared for you because I know I'll play like one snap of NFL football and I'll get folded in half like a book. So anyone smaller than me is probably going to die. So like him being smaller than me scares me a bit, but is you right? And league is moving that way. Like Calvin Austin from Memphis had a similar kind of skill set. He's kind of carved out a niche as well. Get him in those kind of roles. And again, in the right kind of system, and he could absolutely flourish. But obviously, if he has a John Ross situation where a team falls in love with the speed, takes him and doesn't know how to use him, he could burn out and be in the UFL in a couple of years.
The new kickoff rules will benefit somebody like him immensely because he's not going to have a 250-pound linebacker bearing down on him as he'd be like to catch it. He's going to be able to catch it under no duress, find a gap and hit it. Like he would absolutely thrive under the new kickoff rules if he does choose to do that. And that's what a team might like see even more in him, like give him a spot straight on the roster for that alone.
All right. There's only 4 left between the 3 of us, and I've got 2 of them. So even though it's out of order, I'm going to go here with another guy. And this one's going to be one of Ash's guys. It's going to be Johnny Wilson from FSU. But he's a tight end, you cry. Well, let's talk about that in just a minute. So Johnny Wilson, just a shade over 6'6" and 237 pounds. PFF gave him a 76 grade on the season. He's primarily a wide option in the offense with 90-odd% of his snaps coming in that wide alignment. He has done about 50 snaps a season in the slot. I know a lot of people want to project him in as a tight end or a slot guy or whatever. He hasn't done that out of college. Doesn't mean he can't. We'll come on to that later. Arizona State for the first 2 years of his career, 2020-2021, as a backup and rotation option, moved to Florida State and was the starter for 22 and 2023, with 617 yards and 2 touchdowns this year and 897 yards and 5 touchdowns last year. RAS of 9.69, obviously exceptionally tall and heavy for a wide receiver, also very explosive, 37 on the vert and a 10 for 8 broad. 4.11 on the shuttle, didn't do a 3-cone, probably for a reason, and a 4.52 40-yard dash with a 1.59 10-yard split. So average to slightly above average speed. However, when you think about the relative athleticism, you're talking about how fast can he go at the weight and height that he is running at, and being able to go 4.52 at 6'6", 231 is exceptionally fast for his height and weight, and explosion and the shuttle that he has means that this is a very athletic prospect. Now, I watched the game against Duke. I know that Ant is going to hate me for saying it that way, but that's the way you say the bloody place. I know it is. Don't hate me. And he's just surprisingly fast. Like, you see him release from the line, and it's so smooth. There's no hint of any other movement. He's just pretty much up to his top speed in a blink of an eye. Really sharp hands. He's a very refined route runner, I think. So deep curls and hitches and quick outs, but also down the sideline, I think he's very good. Got really angry hands, snatches balls away from defenders, physically imposes himself, especially on cornerbacks, smaller cornerbacks. So if he sees a guy that's coming up against him who's, sub 6 foot, sub 200 pounds, he's going to go out there thinking, I can put you on the floor. And that's just really fun to watch. He's not a separation guy, despite me saying that he, has impressive speed for his height and weight. Yes, but it's still not that fast. So he's not going to separate from guys down to speed, down to route running, potentially. But we'll see. As you'd expect, the contested catch ability is very, very good, especially against tight coverage. He seems to almost get better when people are near him somehow, which I don't really understand. But there you go. The biggest takeaway I have from him is I don't see any reason why he can't be a wide receiver. Like, everyone wants to project him to a tight end because, well, the height and weight would say that he's a slightly light tight end that's the right sort of height, if not slightly taller than your average tight end, actually. A lot taller than your average tight end. But if you put him in that area, you're going to draw some of these bigger slots to come up against him who aren't going to be as much of a mismatch for him athletically. Whereas you put him on the outside, they're going to be facing these sort of, how many 6'4" cornerbacks, or 6'3" cornerbacks? Like, they are a rare breed. The average cornerback he's going to come up against is 6 inches smaller than him, 5 inches smaller than him, and they're going to be giving up at least 20 pounds, if not 50 pounds. And when you can run 4.52, when you can do a 1.59 10-yard split, when your route running is sufficiently good, he's giving people fits on the outside. You don't need to project him in. In fact, I think bringing him inside is detracting from what actually makes him really attractive as a prospect, which is that he's going to bully people. And I want to do that further away from the line of scrimmage. I know that sounds like you want to physically impose people by him being a tight end and kind of block in. And yes, I think that potentially on limited reps, you could see him doing that, especially if maybe he is a motion man like Laporta kind of does now, motioning in from the outside, coming in and then maybe blocking down at speed. But that's going to be like a kind of very limited, schemed up sort of thing. I think you can just trot him out there as an X-type wide receiver and he's going to produce. The thing is, he's going to need an accurate quarterback which can just put the ball where only he can get it. Guess what we've got? Guess what Detroit has? Exactly the sort of guy who can do that. Now, you've got to convince Goff that throwing into tight coverage and contested catch situations is going to be an okay thing to do. Whether he can do that is yet to be seen. But Goff is an accurate quarterback. Johnny Wilson is a very good wide receiver prospect, not tight end. In fact, I don't think he'd be a good tight end. There's just something about him which says to me, you're not going to do the blocking at the line of scrimmage in line as well as he's going to dominate people on the outside. I just don't think it's going to translate as well. So keep him on the outside. I think it's going to be great. I've got him as a low second round, high third round pick, which I think is slightly higher than the consensus at the moment. But he's in that sort of mid day 2 range, I think, and deservedly so. We'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, I know, Ash, you've seen a lot of Johnny, so I'm going to go to Ant first and then come to you. What have you seen from Johnny Wilson?
I don't think I can be unbiased on Florida State products, so I feel like I'm not. I feel like I'm not allowed to. Well, you're a fan of them, so I will say my favorite memory of Johnny Wilson is when Shaheem Battle absolutely locked him up last year and made him look like a 0-star recruit when they lost to us, as they always do. So, I mean, that was quite fun. He was useless that day, but Shaheem Battle was just that good. That's my favorite memory of him. I joke. Well, I think he's underappreciated in all general. I don't like he is an underappreciated receiver. He's been very good first at Arizona State and then at Florida State. Like he's been at 2 very good programs and he's produced at both. And I kind of do get a bit confused sometimes by the blowback on him. I think some people overrate him too much. I think a lot of people underrate him. Again, I think with him, it's going to be very scheme specific. He's got to land in the right position where they're going to use a guy like him correctly. I don't, yeah, he's good. Like he's like in the middle. I don't think he's bad like a lot of people do. I think there's a lot of smoke blowing in that evaluation there as well. But he isn't a tight. I agree, he's not a tight end. I don't know where all this tight end shiz has come from. Like that's just really confused. Like sometimes with some players, the narrative emerges and you're like, the hell did that come from? Like, I don't see that at all. I absolutely agree. He's going to be an X-wide receiver. And he'll be a decent X-wide receiver. So, yeah. I don't know if us is the place, but who knows? Who knows?
You guys are
Here we go.
Like, this year, Johnny fell victim a bit to two things of circumstance. The first of which is J-Trav, unfortunately, having a bit of a fall off in terms of his deep ball accuracy. You look at him last year, and there was some absolute throws from him to Johnny that were just so on point that Johnny, all he had to do was just walk into the end zone. It was great to see. Fortunately, this year, because J-Trav was trying to work on his mechanics a bit in the intermediate to short game, he kind of was overthinking things a bit too much. When he finally got to the deep option with Johnny, it was a bit late. J-Trav, as much as I love him, doesn't have the arm to maybe force it deep quickly. And so Johnny, where he really excelled for us, kind of fell off. And then the second bit is obviously us bringing in Keon Coleman, who became the alpha guy who got most of the targets. And then actually this third bit of circumstance, Johnny unfortunately suffered a hip injury against Duke that he was then carrying for the rest of the season, which limited him a bit. So those kind of 3 things kind of hurt him this year. But you just look at last year where he first came in, like I remember listening to the podcast I listened to for Knowles 247, for example, discussing him, and they were like, this stuff there, obviously the size, the speed at that size, but he's not a good route runner and he has concentration drops. And then he came in 2022 and showed very good route running for his size, especially, and also those concentration drops weren't as obvious. I think if I look quickly, I think Arizona State 1 year he had like 20% drop rate, and then that cleared up to like 10. Let's have a look quickly. Okay, so yeah, so at Arizona State he had drop rates of 20% in 2021. That nearly halved at Florida State to nearly 10%. Like he really cleaned up those things, and yes, there is knocks to him because of the size. He doesn't really have the agility, which is personally why I don't think he'll work as a tight end, because in those sort of short yardage situations on the inside, you need the agility, and he just doesn't have that. He won't be able to quickly get into a crossing route or anything that we do, obviously, with our tight ends, for example. But you get him on the outside, you get him running those goes, posts, corners, hitches, and that, which utilize his size and speed. And we're going to do, and you could do great things with him. So yeah, that's why I blow back as well at the whole thing with him not being a fit here, because he was a very good culture guy for FSU, and he fills something that we need. And as we'll come on to in a bit, it's the same with the other guy for other reasons. But yeah, if God help Matt, if we draft him on day 2, like late day 2, I also have a 3rd round grade on him. If we get him, God help Matt's ears, because I've been high on this guy for 2 years, and I think he'll be such a good fit here, because then you'll have him going deep with JMO, and he can also block as well. So running Gibbs up to that like left-hand side of here behind him, it's going to be so filthy if it happens.
All right, that done, we'll move it on. And we're going to move on to Ash's last man.
And last man for me is someone that actually is a bit more well-known for with everyone here, hopefully. And that's Weapon X, though we shouldn't call him that because Brian Dawkins had it first. But that's Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina. So the RAS 9.89, and I know obviously we're not too high of RAS guys here, but that's pretty damn good. The size is good, 6'1", 221 pounds, 24 reps on the bench, 9-inch hands, and then 31 and 875-inch arms. Great speed with a 4.93 40-yard dash, over 1.57 10-yard split. Elite explosion numbers, 40-yard vertical, 10'8" broad jump. Didn't do the agility drills for probably reasons we'll come to in a bit. And his RAS comparison, and it's another one of my favorite like sort of weird receivers. Quincy Enunwa, the former Jets wide receiver who had one good year in 2016, and then injuries just derailed the rest of his career, unfortunately. But that 1 year for the Jets, he was really damn good. So the Jets 2023, 82.9 offensive grade, 86.9 receiving, 53.8 run, which means he took some of the handoffs, and a 42 run blocking grade. So in the receiving game, 71 catches on 97 targets for 1,255 yards, 7 touchdowns, 47 first downs, 451 yards after the catch, only 2.7% drop rate, but a 47.6 contested catch rate, and then one of his knocks, 34% slot rate. But he also took he had 7 rushing attempts for -8 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 fumbles, and 2 first downs. And he also took 10 kicks for 216 yards, but he also fair caught 2 of them. The game I watched in particular, to the surprise of probably no one, is the game against Clemson this year, because obviously I know Clemson pretty damn well. 63.9 offensive grade, 63.9 receiving grade, and a 59.4 run blocking grade. He caught 10. They had 10 targets for 6 catches, 68 yards, no touchdowns, 4 first downs, 22 yards after the catch, no drops, 0% contested catch rate, and he played 40% of his snaps in the slot. He also took 1 kick for 43 yards. So his big strength is obviously, kind of like with Johnny, really damn good speed for his size, which makes him a really good clear out guy for stuff underneath. So South Carolina used him quite a lot on those sort of things where they got him running a post or a go just to draw the DBs back to then run stuff underneath with him, with other guys. And given his size, he's very good at contested catches, and he does fight through contact to keep hold of the ball, and he fights through tackles to get extra yards when he's got the ball in his hand. And again, because of the size, big catch radius, so there was quite a few times where the throws weren't too accurate from Rattler, and he sort of had to lean out and grab it out the air, and he did well at that. And he can stack the DBs really well to get that extra little bit of separation if he needs it. So there's a couple of times where South Carolina ran him in kind of bunch formation where he was just behind the slot receiver in a sort of mini duo bunch, and literally his first catch of the game was from that, where he stacked the DB well off that slot receiver to get open on the corner and catch the ball. And then he's also got versatility. So he was used out wide, in the slot, and in the backfield in this game. But he does have some weaknesses. So because he's only had 1 year out the outside, most part is played in the slot in college, he has a limited route tree, and he does have a very basic release package. He doesn't really do that much in terms of getting open against press on the outside, because he just doesn't have experience to work out what works well for him. And sometimes he is non-committal on things. So especially on run blocking, there was a couple of times where he would just push a guy in and that would be it. And then on an interception that Rattler threw to him on a deep post, he just didn't go for the ball, and the safety just jumped up and got it and got the interception. And he also had a really bad drop on an orbit screen, and like the third play of the game that was ruled a fumble and was then returned for a touchdown. Like it literally hit him in the hands, or it hit him in stride in his hands, and it just bounced off, and it was a touchdown to Clemson. And because of that sort of inexperience on the outside, when he's cutting on his routes, his head dips slightly as if he's looking at his feet to check, oh, yeah, my feet are still doing the right thing. And it just allows that DB, that extra little tiny bit just to get in for him. Percy is a DB now. Love that stuff. So that's why I spotted quickly. And when he is cutting, and because he's probably concentrating on his feet, they're not sharp. He more rounds the corner rather than just cutting on a dime. And when he is being used as the clear out guy, if someone gets the ball underneath, he just doesn't block for them. He's just like, yep, okay, I've done my job. You're away. It's up to you now to get the yards after catch, which is something I don't think we'd like. We obviously, as it's a big thing for our team, no block, no rock. I didn't really see the blocking from Leggett in this game. There were some times when he was used outside zones, and that he would block for a bit. For the most part, he was kind of uninterested in blocking, which kind of turned me off him a bit. My comparison for him is the former Bear and Eagle, Alshon Jeffrey, big wide receiver with some sneaky speed. He's also very, very similar to Keon Coleman, so I don't know why people love Leggett and hate Coleman. Like people just say, oh yeah, Coleman's not for us. Coleman is literally just a taller Xavier Leggett that actually blocks. So why do we hate Coleman but love Leggett? But in terms of his summary, he's an X-star receiver with some potential to become the alpha, but really needs to work on that route running on the outside. Probably will come from experience. He's the wide receiver 10 according to Mock Draft Database right now, and the 40th overall prospects. He's a mid-second rounder. That seems about fair for me right there. Like if we did take him in that kind of second round range, I'd be happy. But of course, he is sneaking up to late day one in certain mock drafts and in the media, especially with us, and I just don't like that. Please no. There's so many. There's better people you could take there, and I'm not just saying Keon because I love him. Like Keon is just a better person, but even then, give me other positions, and we can come back day 2, day 3, as we've said with the guys with co-pro today, and get someone who's just as good as a fit. You don't have to force it just because it's seemingly a good thing. But for us, if we did take him, he could fill that Josh Reynolds role, but it will take him a bit of time to win over Goff because he doesn't get that much separation on most of his routes because of that route running. And I don't think the team will like him initially because he's just not interested in that run blocking. And for us, that is the primary thing, as I keep saying, no block, no rock. We heard it from JMO. So if he does come here, that's the first thing they'll do is they'll just get him blocking drills, get that into him because otherwise it's just not going to work here. So Leggett is a good wide receiver. I actually don't see the lines fit as much as other people do. It might just be me watching the wrong game and not seeing the things other people are. But for me, if you told me in the second round, well, we could have Keon or we could have Leggett, and I'm not just saying it because I'm an FSU fan, give me Keon because better blocker, he's slightly taller. I know we had the worst 40-yard dash, but fastest guy in the gauntlet. That's someone that I think is a much better fit for what we want. So Leggett, he's good. Give me other receivers, please.
And have you seen Leggett?
Yeah, this is a really difficult one for me because I like what Xavier Leggett can be in the league. I see what he can be, but I would actually double down even further than what Ash would. I would take Johnny Wilson over Xavier Leggett, let alone Keon Coleman. So here's my big issues with Xavier Leggett. He's the type of, get this, I love the player and it pains me to pan him so much. But the trouble is he has been so far overvalued in this mock draft, in the draft,
He should be nowhere near round 1. He should be nowhere near round 2. He shouldn't be in any of those conversations. Pure stop, full whatsoever. Why? He is a 5-year player for South Carolina. 5 years. 5 he's been there. He was a starter in his last year. Why has it taken you 5 years to break through into that team when it's not exactly been a treasure trove of wide receiver talent there? Like, he's had, what, I think it's 200 yards was his best year before that. Like, he's done nothing before this season, and then he's had a breakout year. But let's break down his big year. He's had he's had nearly 1,300 yards. Who did he get them against? 217 yards against Jacksonville State from the CUSA. 178 against North Carolina, who have one of the worst defenses in college football these last few years. It's atrocious. 190 against Mississippi State. Garbage this year after what happened to Mike Leach and that. They were a terrible team. 120 against Vanderbilt. 110 against Florida. And Ash will be the first to tell you how crap they are. 120 against Furman, FCS opposition. There is not one signature performance in his season. Missouri, 20 yards. What's Missouri produced this year in the draft? 3 DBs who are going to go really high. He got 20 yards. Texas A&M, really good defense there, 20 yards. Clemson, really good defense. Yeah, he got 68, but no touchdowns, no game-changing plays there. Tennessee, that's not even really a good SEC defense, 50 yards. Like Georgia, maybe 71 yards, no touchdowns. You have stat padded against really bad teams. And when it's come to the big games, you've not shown up. So you are a 1-year guy as a starter. He is so far underdeveloped because, yes, like the limited snaps he's played in his career at South Carolina before that, he's been an outside guy, but he's not played. He's played so little before this year that he's underdeveloped. The route running, all the nous, the stuff that comes with it, he's not up to scratch with it yet. And you've not played one signature game where I can hang my hat. If I'm going to take you in the first round or even the second, I want to go to a game where I can say, my God, he dominated a good opposition. Hell, like tonight, I told you about Malachi Corley, who went and dominated Ohio State. Josh Reynolds went and, he did better against Tennessee with a group of 5 team. Like, he's gone there and done that. Xavier Legette doesn't have nothing to hang his hat on. All he has is his intangibles, his frame, what he could be. And this is why I hate saying this stuff. I really do, because I like the player and what he could be. But do not tell me he is a first-round pick. He has done absolutely nothing to justify that. It's taken you 5 years to be a starter, and you've not had a good performance against one good team. So don't just say, oh, he's big, oh, no, sorry, I can't. I just can't do it. If you fall to the end of day 2 or the start of day 3, yes, because you could be something special. But are you telling me you've done better than Johnny Wilson in college and you're doing the same thing? Johnny Wilson has had a superior career on some good teams and signature performances. Xavier Legette has none of that, and I'm sorry to anyone who supports him. I like him. It's just draft evaluations have made me do this because I have to fight back against this narrative. He's not worth that at all.
I am going to preface my comments on him by saying that we have done our analysis independently and we have watched different games. I have Xavier Legette ranked as a top of the 3rd round pick below Johnny Wilson and below Keon Coleman. So that is also where I'm at with this guy. Now, the speed, the height, the weight, the explosion, love it. But I watched the game against Florida in particular. Like you said, not the best defense in the world. He runs a 4.39 40-yard dash and could not create separation over the top. If you are a burner, you have to win over the top. You know what he did do? Is he won horizontally, which is weird because you didn't do the agility drills. So when your calling card is meant to be the stuff over the top, and against a mediocre to bad team, you can't do that. I'm worried, but it's the 1 year stuff that you just pointed out, which really worries me. He can't win against press man, and he's £221. He has to be in motion in every snap because you need to give him a running start to win. That's fine. You can do that in the NFL. But it's a worrying sign because it means you're pigeonholing him into doing that, which means you can't do it with someone else because he can't have two people in motion. I'd rather not have him in motion, given his physical stature and skill set. You need to be able to have him win on the line if you're going to be drafting him that high, and he's not there yet. And you're absolutely right. He could be amazing, but this is where, you know, when teams draft a guy who goes 4.29 or 4.31, even though he can't do anything else, and they draft them late round 3, early round 4, and we go, why are you doing that? This guy isn't even a football player. Like, round 7, fine, but what are you doing in late round 3, early round 4?
Taekwon Thornton.
Yes, or there was someone even worse than that.
Anthony Schwartz.
That's the
Anthony
one.
Schwartz.
Thank you. Anthony
Taekwon
Schwartz.
Thornton.
Leggett should go where those guys went, because the reason why you're taking those guys is what Leggett has to overcome, which is that he's got the development to come, and he's been there 5 years. Everything I said against about Bob Means applies to Xavier Leggett. In fact, Bob Means is more developed than Xavier Leggett is.
Bob Means has had several meaningful seasons with Pittsburgh.
I
And
have
this is the
Bob.
trouble, and again, this is not saying Xavier Leggett is a bad player. It's
Yeah.
just he is not a first round player, and he's done nothing to. And
Yeah.
again, this is why I hate it when he's mentioned, because I do actually like him.
Yes, there's
But I
something
can't-
very. He puts
there
a
is-
smile on your face when you watch him.
Exactly. And I see what he like. If you want a prototype X wide receiver who's gonna like dominate the best corners in the NFL, you build him. Like you would build someone similar to him. But he's just not been there or done it. I mean, when your best games against Furman and Jackson, they're like, come on, please. Like Missouri, they produced 3 NFL DBs this year, and he got nothing. That is a concern.
Yeah,
Like, and Abrams Drain, for as much as I love him, and Rackstraw, they're not even amongst the top corners in this year. They're in the second plethora for some. I mean, for me, he's top, but Jalen Carley's is in the second group of safeties. But
yeah. I think
this is why I have to push back on this. I don't want to, but I have to. Like, he's not done anything against anyone good.
I guess I would say it like this. I would not be surprised if at the end of the career you told me he was a high-end wide receiver 1 for his team. But I would say that you are arguing for the thin end of the wedge. You are banking on a 5 to 10% shot. And it's just not good. Even at the bottom end of round 2, I don't like those odds. I wouldn't be trotting him out to necessarily start for us. That's worrying. So, yeah. We have talked about Xavier Leggett a lot, and we still have a lot more to get to. So, Ant, let's get to your guy, your last one.
All right, well, I've spent a lot of time on the first two, so I'll go a little easier on the third. He's small school. It can package it a little better. So I've got one of my favorite guys out the FCS. This is Ryan Flournoy. I've watched him a lot on the All-Star circuit at the end of the season. And again, this is the guy where you're going to go, I love this guy, sort of secretly. He is, for me, so he's 6'1", 202 pounds. Out of all the day 3 receivers out there, he has the lowest floor, but he has the highest ceiling of everybody in that day. Why? Many different reasons. But first off, he's done the things the hard way. He started off at Central Missouri, didn't get a look in there, had to drop down to JUCO to get his start in football, performed really well there. Then he landed with the Southeast Missouri State Redhawks, I think they are, if I got that right. So he's had to go down to the bottom to fight his way back up again. But in 2 years, he has really flourished. He's been the blue touch paper that has lit up that system. He's tallied up 121 receptions for 1,841 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns at 15.2 yards per reception. He has 2 rushing touchdowns, and he averages nearly 12 yards a carry when he gets the ball out the backfield, because they have special packages they develop for him to run it out of there, where they run him out the backfield. He also averages 28 yards per return as a kickoff returner. When you say do it all, guy who plays outside, inside, backfield,
motion guy, returner. He literally will do everything for you. So that versatility pops off the page instantly, gives you something to work with at the next level. He is built like an NFL outside wide receiver, say 6'1", 202. It's decent. You put a little bit on there for him, and he's going to do really well. He is athletically freakish. Like 39.5-inch vert. He's got 11-foot broad jumper, 153 10-yard split in the 40. Dude is electric. And you've got that to work with as well. You have the versatility in his play. You have the athletic ability to work with as well. I think he's going to be a prototype X at the next level, but with versatile impacts, what you can do. As I say, you can even use him as a running back. And for me, he's given me a tantalizing look of what I know he can be. So again, he's got all the raw stuff. He's got all the bits you need. Can he do it against really good opposition? Because obviously Southeast Missouri State, it's FCS. He's picked on a lot of DBs who are never going to see the light of day in the NFL there. But can he do it against the good teams? And yes, he can. Opener this season, they were on the road to the they were on the road to Kansas State. Now, bear in mind, Kansas State were then reigning Big 12 champions. They were on the road. So this is a massive fixture for them. And there is a vast gulf in quality between these two teams. 10 receptions for 96 yards on the day for him. But what was even more impressive, he had 5 contested catches. He won 3 of them. He was bullying bona fide NFL level DBs on their home ground on the road with an FCS QB throwing to him, and they couldn't handle him because of that mixture of athleticism, his skill on the ball. Like, he was really, really impressive. And you talk about a signature game that gives you hope for a guy, that's it. And he performed great during the season. So I think it was an 825 yards for him this year. Missed a couple of games in the early season due to injury. But like I say, you got a big game against the Power 5 team. But then it comes to the off-season circuit, and you want to see him do well against others. And if you remember the Senior Bowl, he was exceptional at the Senior Bowl. Again, you see his frame, you see the agility. All week, he was giving some of the best DBs who are going to this draft a torrid time because, as I say, that athleticism mixed with his frame, mixed with his potential skill, like, his ceiling is huge. If you can develop him, if you can refine everything to the level that he's going to be playing at in the NFL, if you can get that versatility there for him as well, his ceiling is absolutely huge. Like, he could be as good as a Xavier Legetta or a Johnny Wilson or someone like that, and you're probably going to get him right at the end of the draft near Mr. Irrelevant territory. Now, obviously, the flip side with that comes that he could just fall flat, and his flaw is he's not even going to make a roster come the start of next season because he comes up, the opposition's just too good. He's just a flashy fitness guy who can't hang, and that would be the problem there. But I say, what you're getting, what you're potentially getting for what you're risking it's just night and day. He's so impressive when he's good. And all I've seen of him is good. He's dominated his FCS opposition. He's dominated against better opposition when he's come up against it. I'm not naive enough to think he's the product because he's got to do it all the time. And the step up to the NFL is huge. But for me, out of all the guys coming from the FCS in terms of his skill mixed with what NFL teams look for, he's got the best chance for me of catching on and being successful at the next level. Although, that's not saying no against the other guys. I think they've all got their own unique qualities. But this is the athletic freak who could be a great X receiver. So Ryan Flona is certainly a name to watch out for, especially on day 3 of this draft. He might well get picked up. I think someone will go, you know what? It's worth the risk. Day 3, let's do it.
Have you seen any of him at all, Ash?
I think I saw a few clips from the Senior Bowl, but that's about it, unfortunately, because I'm not that big on FCS yet. Give me a bit more time. But yeah, from what I saw, he has the frame. It's just, and I know he did it against Senior Bowl, it is just can he consistently do against NFL talent, and will the team take that chance? Because I'm looking now at mock draft database, not the be all and end all, but looking at some of the guys around him, they're guys that are getting a bit more talk. So, Bob Means, who we discussed earlier, Jalen Coker's in that sort of area, and I've heard a lot about him. Joshua Cephas is just below him. Anthony Gold from Oregon State, the guy who name I cannot pronounce, was also at the Senior Bowl from Georgia, and then right in front of him, Cornelius Johnson from Michigan. There's quite a lot of guys there who are getting a lot more things, but that's the thing with how good our scouting is, and again with him being at the Senior Bowl, there's going to be a team that takes a chance on him, and if it's us, because from the sounds of things, it sounds exactly like what we were maybe hoping Anton Green was, because a bit last year, we obviously took him in the 7th round because he had that stuff, was underused at UNC, had some special teams, hasn't really worked out. If we want to continue doing that sort of conveyor belt thing of just always drafting a receiver every year, because that's something we do, it seems. While I know obviously the big thing with Bob Quinn was you draft a QB every 2 years, one of our things is you draft a receiver every year. If this is the guy on day 3, I'll be more than happy because it's got all the tools there, and I trust Anton Randall and Ben just to see what we can do, put him in the right position, and then if he succeeds, it's all up to him. If he fails, then it's up to him as well. And he could easily go and be one of those that goes to USF, whatever it's called, the UFL or whatever, and dominates there and consistently gets a practice squad position. And then one day he might get it because, hell, if Darius Fountain can be on our practice squad and keep getting and got a future steal from him, why can't this guy?
I have nothing to add, so I'm just going to move on unless Ant, you have anything to come back on. All right, we're going to move on to the final guy that we have in detail, and then we're going to just very briefly cover the rest of the top of the class. And this is Washington's wide receiver 2 in Jalen Polk, who is an exceptionally interesting and exciting young player. He is 6'2", 204. PFF have him at 75 grade for the season, 8.84 RAS. That included a 4.5 240-yard dash and a 1.59 10-yard split, so not exceptionally quick, but very explosive. 10'9" broad, 37.5-inch vert. Never mind. Versatile wide receiver, so 505 wide snaps, 306 in the slot. Obviously, with Rome Odunze on the outside, that does mean you're going to have to play a bit more in the slot than you might otherwise do. I actually project him to be an outside guy, but he can do it from the slot too. Spent 2020 at Texas Tech before transferring to Washington and was a 2-year starter. This past season, 69 receptions for 1,159 yards, 9 touchdowns, and also 4 carries for 32 yards and a touchdown. I watched the Week 4 game against Cal, where he had a PFF grade of 91.5. I normally try and watch a middle-of-the-road game. This was one of the few they had available for him. I tried to be as level-headed as I could with this, but first thing that popped off to me is that this guy loves to block. Now, he's not quite up there yet in terms of technique for it, but clearly really enjoys it, which I thought was really interesting to note straight away. Very smooth release. There was a goal line fade, which he ran. Exceptional work, great hands, awareness of the end zone, getting the feet down inside was really good. Active in the scramble drill. He knows when his quarterback's in trouble. He knows where he's rushing out to and where he needs to be to help him out. Including turning into the defender on a badly thrown ball. Obviously, Washington like to throw it a lot, but we know that Michael Penix Jr. is prone to the odd badly thrown ball, and he did bail him out on an occasion in this game. He's got really quick feet, great body control, great hands, shifty with the ball in hand. I haven't seen him get jammed at the line particularly much, even though he's 6'1", 203. I have questions in that regard. Precise in his route running, he also has the ability to change gears in his route running to create separation. So he'll start off slow and then hit the gas. He'll hit the gas and then slow down. He has the ability to kind of stop and start in that way to really get a few yards here and there. Even though then he's only 4.52 in the 40-yard dash and 1.59 in the 10-yard split, he can vary his speed to get his separation rather than just burning over the top. Has suddenness to his game. which I really like. So more than just the ability to stop and start, he can change direction very, very easily. Physical player, really bodies people. 203 isn't exactly the biggest wide receiver ever, but he plays bigger than that. Contested catch guy. Lacks top end speed, as I said, so he's not going to burn you over the top. Don't know whether he can act well against being jammed at the line. So questions at the next level in that regard, but can run most of the routes. You know, as a polished wide receiver, even though that Washington offense is so unique. You know, in the same way, not same way, but similar weirdness to the Tennessee offense that Hendon Hooker ran. You know, it's not quite that weird in terms of having really wide guys and just chucking it up there. But the majority of the Washington offense is throwing 50-50 balls wide. Just not dissimilar to what we saw at Tennessee. And that's why Adunze and Polk and the other Washington wide receiver's name escapes me. Sorry?
McMillan.
That's the one. That's why they're also highly regarded, because they've been given the opportunity to do this. When Ryan earlier said he doesn't hate for wide receivers air raids, well, yeah, because they're given lots of opportunity to show what they can do, and they do the reps again and again and again. It's a really good thing, I think, for wide receivers, to be frank. And Jalen Polk, I have him ranked as a mid-second round player after all of this, which I think is roughly where his consensus grade is as well. I would be delighted if the Lions got him with their second round pick at 61, because I think that would represent really good value. I think he'd slot in straight at the X. I think he would do some of the things that you see from those high-end wide receiver ones who aren't exceptionally fast. So there's a few guys I had in mind, but they're all escaping me now in terms of comps. I will think of one and maybe wheel back to that in just a second. But boys, I know you guys have seen some Washington football. What do you think of Jalen Polk?
I have no idea what you're on about. I've never watched them. Joke. Jalen Polk suffers from what we know as little brother syndrome, in that he could go to the Olympics and win a silver medal. He'll go home, he'll take it to dad and he'll go, "Look, Dad, I've won a silver medal." And Dad'll go, "Well, your brother would have won gold medals, son. You know, that's not good enough." And of course, big brother in this case is Rome Odunze. Like, and I suffered from this as well, because I say Washington, I sort of last year started watching, it was like everyone's watching Rome, Odunze, and then during the game you just hear Jalen Polk, Jalen Polk, Jalen Polk. You know, to a lesser degree, Joe McMillan as well. Like, they have both suffered from being in the shadow of Rome Odunze, and, you know, to liken them for what they are, like, Rome Odunze he's like a fancy swordsman. He's the glitzy guy who goes out, does the dueling, all that sort of stuff. Jalen Polk is the blacksmith who makes his weapons, the dirty, gritty, tough guy. He's the competitive, tough catcher. He's the guy who'll highball and go up. He'll put his body on the line and make those crucial catches that you don't remember at the end of a game. They're not flashy, they're not spectacle like Odunze does, but for those who are really watching the game, they'll remember them. Like, he'll move the chains in situations where you really need him. He'll make those plays when Odunze's not available. Like, he's really underappreciated. And it's simply because of the guy. And it happens sometimes. Like, a receiver could be that damn good that everyone else just gets caught in his shadow. And that's how I feel with Polk. Like, he's tough. A team is going to love him because they're like, right, we'll put him on a big 230-pound linebacker or something. He'll go and grab the ball off them. He'll go up with, he's not afraid of contact. He will go and mesh with them. So, like, I really like him. And I agree, he's a day 2 pick. And maybe higher than some people might give him credit for, because if you want a tough contested catch guy, he's the guy you go to. Now, after the catch, yeah, that needs work. Like, he's a guy, he'll go up and get it and he'll make a really tough catch, but then he won't run for 20 yards after. He doesn't have that sort of twitch and that ability to do so, but he's still valuable for what he does. And like, that Washington system, it would have fallen apart without him. McMillan as well. And the tight end, I keep forgetting his name, but, they all had their role to play in that offense to make it so smooth. And Jalen, he was the second in command there. And he's vastly underappreciated. So I really like him. I think he's going to do well. Just, again, get him in the right system. He will flourish.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. So the tight end is Cole. I think Devin Cole. But yeah, I agree. And to bring mythology into it, Adunze is very much the Achilles, the big flashy fighters, and says, gets everything. Polk is Ayas of Salamis. Just not as good as a fighter, but still does all the work, and sometimes gets underappreciated for it. Just like Ayas was. If people don't know their myth, look up his myth. There's a reason we have the idiom "fall on your sword" is what I'm going to say. But yeah, I do like Polk. Obviously, there is other people in that range I do like as well, as we'll come on to in a bit. There's a certain guy from a certain state that I like that also is in that range that I like just as well. But I do like Polk, and if we get him in that sort of second round, third round, I'll be happy because yeah, slide him in. He might, and he'll be happy not being the main option, which is something you probably have to do if you're going to play X receiver for us, because Amon Ra's the big guy. You've got Laporta, Gibbs, who are all going to get their touches. JMO is going to hopefully finally have his breakout. You're going to have to be happy being second or third fit in terms of wide receiver targets. And I think Polk will be more than happy to do that, do the donkey work, because he knows at the end of the day, his coaches and his fellow players are going to appreciate what he does for the team. And he's still going to earn millions of dollars doing it. So
I got my comp, and everyone's going to hate it, and I don't care. He's a more athletic, explosive version of DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh.
Yeah, see, I didn't think he'd like that, but physically similar. The way he runs, the contested catch stuff, I think it's similar.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the Vraz ones. And to be fair, the top Vraz comparison for him is someone that's on our roster.
For one, Jalen Polk's a hell of a lot more humble. Like he's
I didn't say personality comp.
Yeah, but you've got to take that into account. You can't just say you've got to, when you comp players. That's why I don't comp players. Every player is their own player. When you comp them, you are putting personality in there with it as well, because these guys have edge to them. Jalen Polk will quite happily be an important piece of a system without being the wide receiver one guy, and he's happy to do that because it's what's best for his team. Hopkins is a prima donna, and he has been for a long time now.
I've just seen who the comp is on Raz. I don't like it, but I do see it. I do see it.
He's a better version of him. So for people who aren't looking, it is the guy we just signed from a futures deal from the Saints, Traquan Smith, and I do see it. He's a better version of him because Smith, he was pretty damn good at that sort of vertical possession stuff for the Saints. It's just, again, he had Michael Thomas, Chris Olave there in front of him.
Yeah,
Kamara.
Right.
That's what Polk turns out to be. I'm happy.
No, that's fair. Let's briefly just have a look at those guys who might go round one that we haven't talked about. So Marvin Harrison Jr., just thoughts on him, the presumptive wide receiver one. May not be when it's all said and done because Neighbors is meant to be threatening him for wide receiver one. Some teams apparently have Neighbors as one, but Marvin Harrison, apparently the majority of teams still have him this wide receiver one. What do you think of him?
In 2 years, he'll be a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. The dude is filthy. And I mean, when I say there is no one I want in the NFC North less than him, I don't want him anywhere near the NFC North. Like, screw all this offseason stuff with him. Screw it. He is the best receiver in college football, and it's not close. The only reason Malik Neighbors is challenging him because all those in power are whining and bitching that he didn't do his pro day or the combine, because athletes are now starting to take control over their process. He knows he's the best receiver in this draft. He don't have to prove shit. That's why he's done it. Malik Neighbors does have nothing on him. 2 years, he's going to be one of the best receivers in the NFL. If he lands, again, even if he has a bad quarterback, he will still be good. Like, he is far and away wide receiver one in this draft. Like, someone right across the other side of the country take him, please. Like, Arizona, lovely. You take him, keep him there,
Yes.
and we don't have to see him once every 4 years, maybe, and that's it.
Yeah, like, he is the best receiver, and it is probably going to be Arizona because we all know the top three are going to be quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. They're the first team that probably don't need to it. And we were just mentioning DeAndre Hopkins. Slide him into there. It's right into that Arizona offense, and he'll be their wide receiver one. And he is probably, I know it's a quarterback award. He should be an instant offensive rookie of the year candidate because with Kyler Murray, yes, it's not the best quarterback, but we saw what he could do with DeAndre Hopkins. He should be able to do the same kind of things with Marvin Harrison.
Oh yeah, he'd get 1,500 yards his first year and he wouldn't bat an eyelid.
Yeah.
Like, he's stupidly good.
I have him graded as a 99 out of 100. The only thing preventing him from being 100, which is surefire number 1 overall pick, is...
He played for Ohio State.
No, his top end speed is not quite as high as I would like if he was going to be a number 1 overall pick over a quarterback. That is the only ping, because he's basically the perfect wide receiver otherwise. Like, he does everything. And even then, that's only top end speed. He still burns people because the burst initially is so damn fast. Like, perfect route runner, angry hands, snatches ball away from people. Ugh, I love him. I love him. He's not... Neighbours is great. It's not close. Marvin Harrison's done it for several years. Neighbours done it for 1 as well. But we'll come on to Neighbours in a second. I don't think it's a contest.
No.
All right, let's move on to Neighbours. LSU wide receiver, 6 foot 200 pounds. What have you seen from him?
I saw Ronaldo Green absolutely shut him down in week 1. So he's a good receiver. He's not on the level of MGH. It's just people looking at the athleticism and not liking it. Harrison didn't do the pre-draft stuff, so they're just like, oh, let's put him there. It's a smoke show. He's a good receiver. Is he? But he has a bit more variability to him. And to be honest, he's actually my wide receiver 3. Rome's Adunze Zabufe for me.
I think if you're gonna if you want your best true deep threat down here in this draft, he would be Marvin Harrison Jr. is just all round really good. But if you just want an out and out deep threat guy, Malik Neighbours is the one you go for. If you want something very, very, very specific, like down the field, he's deadly. He has just got stupid pace, but he's got stupidly good technique to go with it, which is what these Anthony Schwartzers and I do not have. He's the whole package in terms of how that goes. So that is for me. He is just a stupidly good deep threat, and he will be a very good receiver. But again, I think people have just forgotten. I don't think it would be offensive to call him a Walmart Marvin Harrison Jr. because a Walmart Marvin Harrison Jr. is still a Marks and Spencer's to even a really good NFL receiver.
You're really going to fuck people up with that in America. They're not going to know what the hell you
That's
mean.
fine.
By
We're a British podcast, so I can do my Brit stuff every now and then.
Fair.
I take on enough Americanisms for them, so they can deal with me on the odd occasion.
Yeah.
But as far as deep guys go, he's probably the best there is. As a deep guy.
I agree. I have him as wide receiver 3 as well. Amazing burner. I mean, deep threat, he is the guy. I agree with Ant. But he is only vertical routes. He does not do anything underneath. So there's a question we're going to come to at the end of the show about Jameson Williams and how he comps to these 3 that we're going to talk about in just a sec. But Neighbours is only deep threat. And the thing is, he runs so urgently and so fast, he's going to threaten anyone deep. And if you can burn people deep, you're going to win games fairly comfortably. So it's not something to just throw away and say, oh, we can only do that. Because it's a pretty big thing that he can do. It does mean that you have to have safeties really give him a lot of depth and not let him go past you, keep him in front of you. But he's a really exciting damn player, man. He puts a smile on your face when you're watching him play because there is no one like him in this draft. No one runs like he does because he's just all 100% all the time. So urgent, so purposeful. in what he's doing. Like he's like a track sprinter who is good at catching. It's like if Anthony Schwartz could play football. Yeah, love him. Right, Rome Odunze. Consensus wide receiver 3 currently still, but from what I've gleaned from what Ash has said and what I've just said, we have him wide receiver 2. What have you boys seen from Rome Odunze?
Big body, physical, just dominant. And if you're saying what are his benefits over the other guys around him, he's faced a harder level of competition over his career. Again, I do keep harking back to this, but I've been very well known. Pac-12 has the best defenses in the Power 5, like depth-wise. Like even over the SEC, again, you come back to like your Utahs, your UCLAs, you know, and you get to the top, you know, Oregon State, like they're fierce. It is not easy. Like you saw how competitive that conference. There were 4 or 5 teams still in the championship race 2 weeks to go because they keep beating one another. It's very hard to thrive in that system as a wide receiver. Like Marvin Harrison Jr., you have to come up against some good defenses in the Big Ten, but a lot of teams can't fight back offensively. Like you are against good balanced teams on both sides of the ball, so you're in competitive games and you're having to go for 60 minutes. Not like Marvin Harrison where he has to play for 20 minutes every week and then Ohio State, apart from when they play Michigan, they're out of sight. Like he's got to do it all game. You saw with Washington last year, like when they played Oregon twice, they got put down to the wire. Oregon State down to the wire. Like there's so many games that they just won, and he's having to play like that all game, like a monster. That is what puts him above because he has been battle tested more than the rest of them, and he's highly talented at that. So that is what could push him above Malik Neighbors for me. Like Malik Neighbors is good. Like, I'm not going to insult him. I think he's great, but Odunze's come through the furnace a lot more. So, and I always take that into account coming to the next level. He'll be more ready for NFL level defenses than Neighbors will, in my opinion. But they're all going to be good.
Yeah, and we've been hiring him for the past 14 months, let's say, because we wanted him last year.
Yeah.
We wanted him last year.
Yeah.
It's just continuing that on. He's gone from back then, we were looking at him in the same range of Puka, so like end of round 3. He is now a first rounder. That's the level of growth we've seen as well. Marvin Harrison Jr., yeah, he's been wide receiver 1 since the start of this year, but you've seen a progression from Odunze as well. You've seen how he's grown from being that 3rd round guy. We were like, oh yeah, like we can see him, but there's some things he needs to improve on. He has now solidified himself as a top 10 prospect in this draft, and that's with potentially 3-4 quarterbacks going in the top 10 as well. That's how good he is.
Yeah, if you were assuming that if you were like 8 or 9 in this draft and you need a receiver, like he'd be the one you'd like. Because Marvin Harrison's no one's gonna give him up. Like he'd be the one you'd trade up for. He'd be number 1 at the top of your list by far for us. So
Odunze is the one that really worries me in terms of the NFC North. I don't see any way Marvin Harrison gets in it. I just don't. But Odunze is the consensus pick at number 9 for the Bears at the moment, along with Jared Verse. Pick your poison.
That'd be hilarious. If they don't pick an O-lineman, then they're going to live to regret it. But they're just going to be morons.
But Odunze with Caleb Williams, with all of the wide receivers they've brought in,
DJ Moore and Keenan Allen.
I mean, it's severely worrying because Odunze. So you said Neighbors might be a Walmart MHJ. I think Odunze is pretty close to Marvin Harrison. Like, so polished, so clean, really angry in terms of how he catches a ball. He bodies people. Like, I would take Marvin Harrison 100 times out of 100 over the two. But the difference between the two I don't think is great. I think they are very, very close.
I think the ceiling, again, Harrison's ceiling's just like, he would be a wide receiver 1 for half the teams in the NFL right now. Maybe more. Odunze is not that just yet, but he could be. But again, this is just a class of stupidly talented receivers.
It is.
I had a bit of a down year last year. This year, it's like, it's going to be like the running back class is going to be next year. That's going to be stupidly good next year. It's terrible this year. It's going to be stupidly good next year. We got it with the receivers this year.
Moving on to wide receiver 4, consensus wide receiver 4 now, very much solidified in that position. Brian Thomas from LSU, 6'3", 209. He has had only 1 year as a full-time starter at LSU. I mean, LSU are wide receiver U right now. They are just churning out unbelievable talent. I'll hold fire on my thoughts. What do you think about Brian Thomas? 4.33 40-yard dash, 1.52 10-yard split. I mean, the guy is a burner.
Yeah. And as much as you don't want a helmet scout, this is one of the few things where even if they're 1 year guys, you are getting pure talent. Like you said, they're wide receiver U. the talent they have brought out to the league. And to say neither guy has started there very long, and yet they're still right up in there. And with good reason. Like, again, Neighbors is the true deep threat on there, but, Thomas is aggressive at the line of scrimmage and he's quick. Like, he's also a separation machine who will just, like, make someone very happy at the next level. Like, he's really good tracking the ball. His hands are really good. It's just, he's just everything you want from a receiver. Obviously, he's not quite on Neighbors' thing, but, he's just great. Like, you can't knock these guys. They're really good. And he's right. I think it's right he's wide receiver 4.
Yeah, like he's got high up, like looking at his range of outcomes, and 2 of them will be LSU guys because they're just easy to spring to mind. Like, he's got the upside of being top 5-10 receiver in the league easily. His mid range is DJ Chark, who is, if you get him right system and he's healthy, he's a top receiver in the league. And even at the bottom, you've got Terrence Marshall Jr., who, again, this stuff there just didn't fall in the right system and they weren't able to capitalize on the tools. Terrence Marshall Jr. is still a good wide receiver 3. He can do stuff for teams. That's what LSU does.
Gross mismanagement.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Thomas is the first. We can put the top 3 out of mind. We're not going to get them. Thomas is probably the first reasonable wide receiver target for us. It's probably not going to be in a range where we can trade up to get him. But if he does fall for one reason or another, if he starts getting close, maybe we trade up for him. We've seen it before with JMO. Could Brad do it again? Maybe. Would I be mad at it? I don't know. It depends. Again, it depends on the compensation we give up, kind of thing. But he's the first guy that I'm like, okay, yeah, this is someone we could see in the Honolulu Blue come next month.
I really love the prospect. I don't want to draft him. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Just one of those guys where I've seen so much good stuff from him. So fast, very limited route tree, vertical guy. That's pretty much all he does. Curls, comebacks, but everything kind of on that straight line and just a little bit of work. But he's not going to run across the field, doesn't do any sort of underneath stuff. And his hands are inconsistent. And it really annoys me, the concentration catches that he misses, because he puts himself in the position to make plays and then just doesn't finish them sometimes. And it really pisses me off with him. He could be one of the best receivers in the NFL, and he could do that fairly quickly because his issues are eminently fixable. Just catch more balls, concentrate harder, and learn a few more routes. Just work hard in an off-season, you'll get there. But I don't want to be the one to take that chance, because if he doesn't get there, I think he's limited. And what he's limited to is really good, but I don't like having guys that are pigeonholed this high, because I do think he's a guy who's going to go top 16 for me. And I think deservedly so, because someone's going to give him a shot to do it. I just don't want to be the one to do it.
That's fair.
All right, the other potential round 1 guys. I mean, who do we have? I guess I would say Ladd McConkey, Xavier Worthy.
Interesting one.
Okay,
Lad
so let's talk.
Lad McConk is a very interesting one. Because I think he's gotten lost under he's not had a chance to show exactly what he can do at Georgia. Like, not exactly wide receiver again. But what he's shown, he's very technically adept at what he does. Like, his routes are really, really good. Like, some of the catches he's made during this offseason, you see the routes he's taken, the way he's able to, the leverage, the way he gets his body, he puts his body in places only he can get the ball. It's just these little things that you're like, oh, hang on, actually, this is really refined stuff, and this translates. And if he carries on, it's like, yeah, I could get maybe why I didn't see it in college. I can understand why you would like to have seen it more, but I can get why I've not seen it, and I can see quite clearly here that he's capable of it. So he is, and again, I don't want us anywhere near him. I'm just talking about the player here. I think he might be surprised. I think someone might be surprised. Someone will see it and be like, yeah, that fits. And if he becomes what he can, he'll be worthy of a first round pick easy. Like, yeah, that could be like a Chiefs thing at 32 or somewhere in that area if they're going to go receiver. But he does. He fits that sort of system of what you want, really, with them. And I think he's the exact type of pick they'd make. You've won 2 Super Bowls in a row. Like, no one cares if you land on the, you can spend a bit of time developing them, getting there with them. Look at Rashee Rice. Like, Rashee Rice has developed into such a nice piece for them. Again, like, let's take all the criminality stuff out of the equation, just the player. Like, we love Rashee Rice. They took him. They've done a good job with him. You do the same with McConkey. Fits that system very well. So he's eminently possibly good, and I think he's proven that he should be worthy of it, potentially.
Yeah, I know we're saying first round, but I can also see him work. And I know it's a bad franchise, but I can see the Panthers liking him because their new head coach, Canales, is obviously the former Bucks OC. McConkey could be his Chris Godwin in that system, and it could work. Like, imagine, I know they're not a good franchise, but Bryce Young, if he gets time, can obviously hit him in stride. You've got Freeland, who can be the kind of, and I'm saying Mike Evans in terms of the big body guy, and then McConkey just gets force-fed targets as the Chris Godwin. That could work. Like, I do like him. And I like his, as I say, I love the route running and that. There's just, for us at least, maybe it's because I haven't watched enough of him, and maybe if I watch a bit more, I might like him a bit more. But for me, in terms of the alliance fit, there's probably guys I have above him right now.
So he's on the Lions board. I'm just going to come out and say that now. He's definitely on the board at 29. And one of the reasons I think he's going to be is the trophy he won this year, which is the Wareham Trophy, which honours college football's most impactful community service leaders. The guy is a good fucking dude. And that matters to this team. It just does. So he's a good dude. He works really hard. Here's why I think he should be a top 16 pick, not borderline first round or top of the second round or whatever people want to call him. This guy should be a top of the first round, well, top half of the first round pick. Whenever you have any DB he has come up against that's coming up in this year's draft, every single scouting report has said Lad McConkey gave him trouble. Every single one. He is the benchmark for which all of these DBs are being measured. And if that DB didn't come up against Lad McConkey, they are lucky because they're going to be more highly regarded because he didn't. He gave the best in the business trouble. And one of the reasons why he's not being so highly regarded right now is because he only played about 240 snaps in the most recent season because of ankle problems. That's the only reason why I have trepidation taking him, because ankle problems can be endemic. And I don't know whether I want to take that risk. But he is a more athletic Amon-Ra St. Brown. He just is. I don't want to hear the outcry from people who are saying Amon-Ra is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. You can't comp him. He is. He's faster. He's more explosive. But he gives it the same sort of effort that you see from Amras and Brown. I mean, he's absolutely relentless, but the perfectionism in his route running, how much he can, which is why he's giving people like Kool-Aid McKinstry problems, Terry and Arnold, whatever. McConkey had him for breakfast. Like, this is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL because his route running is exceptional. And it's one of the picks at 29 that would excite me the most if he was still on the board. I don't think he should be there, and God help us if the Chiefs get him at 32, if they do slip past us and they get him, because Mahomes and McConkey will just light the league on fire. It's going to be horrific to watch. Any other players you want to talk about?
Dare I do it? Dare I do it?
Do you want to talk Keon?
Oh, I was actually going to go for the other big receiver from the state of Florida. I was going to use my one allocated I like a Gator card. Last year,
Parcel.
Richards. This year, it's Ricky Parcel. Another former ASU Sun Devil. Again, he kind of has a bit of the Johnny Wilson syndrome in this year because of stuff at QB. He had a bit of a fall off because going from Anthony Richardson to whoever poured soul they were trotting out a QB for Florida in a particular game, he did have a bit of dip in stats. But Parcel is one of those guys who we could stick at X, and yeah, he might not be the flashiest name out there. He not have the top end speed, but he will come in, do a job, and we will not be sad if we pick him in the second round because there's your X receiver slot lined up for 4 years. He'll be nice and consistent. He blocks. He's got good route running. He has good speed, not top like burner speed like Neighbors or Thomas or Xavier Worthy, but he's got good enough speed to hit you deep. He's a good do-it-all receiver. Obviously, I love my FSU boys a bit more, but if we have to have another Gator on this bloody team, I'll be okay if it's Parcel.
I'll give my final shout out. The guy who I think will surprise if you're going to say, is there a potential sleeper sort of near the top who could be really good, who no one talks about, then it's Jermaine Burton from Alabama. Yeah. He is an elite speed slot receiver, and Bama receivers block. You see what JMO does on the field. They are tough nuts, and he's kind of also suffered from a drop-off since Bryce Young has left there. But he is highly underrated. If someone's going to get taken and just blow up out of the top lot, he's the guy. I'm very interested, I don't want to take that risk for us, but I'm very interested more than most about where he goes and how he does. So Jermaine Burton will surprise a lot of people.
I don't have anyone else to shout out, so I'm just going to go to some of the questions we've had tonight. We had Carlton Wood, i.e. Cool Down Rat on X, say Josh Reynolds 2023 stats to 608 yards and 40 receptions. Do you see JMO and Green and even tight end Mitchell picking up some of that, meaning that not too much is expected of a rookie wide receiver?
JMO will, yeah. We've got to remember the first half of last season, we were like, the team aren't using him right. Goff isn't trusting him yet. It finally got there. He finally had an uptick near the end of the season, but you give him a full year of what we had in that last month and a half, he will happily eat into that Josh Reynolds allocation. And yeah, whatever's left will get spread between Donovan Peoples-Jones. If you draft a rookie receiver, then Mitchell might get a few more. Horton might. Gibbs might. This is a guy who was coming out the draft and we're like, oh, he's a great receiving back, and he actually didn't get used as much or as well as a receiving back as would have liked. So yeah, we've got enough here at least right now where, yeah, if we draft a guy day 2, day 3, where we do have to ease him in because of certain stuff, we've got enough guys to pick up the slack at least while we wait for that rookie to develop.
I'm presuming Ant's gone away since his video's gone off, so I'll move on to the next question. And this one was directed mainly at you anyway, Ash, from Brent. Says, pros and cons of drafting between Leggett or Roman Wilson. So I don't know if you've seen much of Roman Wilson.
I've seen a bit. I haven't seen the most of him. I was hoping it'd be Johnny Wilson that was being asked out when I saw that, but with Roman. So obviously, we've already gone through the pros and cons of Leggett. already scouted him. So that's kind of funny that that's happened with Wilson. Again, he could be used all over the place. I know he's played side outside for Michigan. It's fast. He's a bit faster, 4.39, 40. The shuttle was good. The 10-yard was good. For Wilson, I think the knock on him is going to be the size, because obviously he's 5'11", 185. His hands are in the 49th percentile. His arms are in the 20th percentile. His wingspan's 9th percentile at 72 and 2/8. So for him, it's going to be the size. So pros, good route runner. He's got the athleticism. Downsides of the size. So again, it's going to be one of those where you might have to live with a rotation at that X spot, mixing him in at the Z spot with JMO as well. But you plug him in, he can do a load of things for you. And again, day 2 guy, he'll be in that sort of so obviously day 1's its own tier receivers. Day 2 receivers, yeah, he's in that same sort of ilk as Leggett, Wilson, Johnny Wilson, Parcel. If we take one of them day 2, I'll be happy. Same goes for Roman Wilson. Obviously, I know he gets the little tick for being a mission guy as well, so we won't have to move too far. We know what he's like, because we'll probably get him in at the local prospect day whenever that's happening soon. So the team will get a way better look at him than they would do at a combine and that. But they've got pros and cons. I personally prefer Leggett, because I've been banging on about getting a true X-Star receiver for a full season now. It was like DT. That's kind of getting solved now. Now it's X-Star receiver. So I prefer Leggett, but if we take Wilson, I won't be too mad.
Yeah, McExperiments asked a related question, which basically says, is Wilson better than Khalif? I'm going to annoy Michigan fans. And Wilson's had a really big glow up in terms of his public perception. I don't think he's better than Khalif Raymond. I'm sorry, but athletic, small, good route runner, but he's not a fit for the Lions. There's redundancy in taking him compared to what we already have. And I don't want to invest the draft capital necessary to get him. Whereas Leggett is just a different position. It's an entirely different player. And I don't think there's any sort of comparison, even though their draft grade for me is kind of similar. I'd rather have Khalif Raymond. Like, you guys know, all of last season I was basically saying, use this guy, we're underutilizing him, he's much better than the usage he's getting. And we bloody paid him like we should have used him more as well, but never mind. Yeah, Wilson's a good prospect, but not for the Lions. And what do you think?
It's a Michigan player, what do you think?
Yeah.
I think he's better than Khalif Raymond.
Fair enough.
Actually, I think you say Roman Wilson wouldn't fit this team, he would. Like, again, the one thing, I can't believe I'm being nice about Michigan player here. He's probably one of the best blocking receivers here. It's what Michigan do. It's the system we use, power running. And like, I think he's probably been underutilized as a receiver because they run the ball so damn much.
That's true.
He's actually really impressive. Like, for us in scheme fit, he would work here. It might be redundant in that we don't need someone at his specific position, but if you're talking about him fitting the Lions, I think he fits them to a T.
And I mean, I did talk about the fact that I do think JMO might not be on the team in 12 months' time. So when I talk about redundancy, if you're talking about a succession plan, then maybe Roman Wilson does fit in that. I know that a lot of people may have only heard that for the first time because that was on our Discord channel, but we're going to struggle to pay everyone. And JMO's last on the list to get paid in terms of timeline, just from when he was drafted, and also his production, which has not been good. Not all his fault, some his fault, some he's developing, but we'll see. Anyway, more on that in the off-season, maybe. Brent DeWitt asks, I'm still hoping that we take an offensive lineman or edge if we stay put or move up. Any thoughts on that take?
Christian Hens.
Moving up in the first.
Oh, no, Jazane Newton. The other one. I've got a stock answer for both of these.
Edge, though. Edge, he was asking.
Jazane Newton is better than any edge in that category. Cry.
Yeah, like there's two edges I'd move up for personally. We all
Apart
know
from
who one of them is.
Jared's too high in this conversation. I am on record as saying the two defensive guys I'd go up for are Jazane and Jared. Jared ain't gonna fall that far, unfortunately.
So then it'll be the other one who also probably won't be there because I know somebody's on the panels, Edge One, Latu from UCLA. Like, I love Jared to bits. Latu isn't more polished.
Just as long as it's not Chop. Just as long as it's not Chop, for the love of God.
Chop. I can see why people like him.
I do.
I don't think he's a fit here.
No.
Because I know I'm stealing a bit from the main line yesterday, so I credit Jeremy and Eric with this take wholeheartedly. The biggest issue we have right now with our edges is breaking contain on Russian quarterbacks. Chop would not help with that because he does the exact same thing. If we're going to take an edge, we want someone that's going to be able to contain nicely and be nice and polished. That's why I like Latu. That's why I like Verse, because I've seen it literally with Verse last year against Florida, where he was able to contain Richardson into the pocket and literally force Florida's left tackle right into Richardson to get a sack. So
I want to take Jazane. Yeah. Mobile quarterbacks aren't going anywhere when they've got nearly 600 pounds of Aleem McNeil and Jazane Newton squashing them. Period.
Or even just give me a 5-man front with them three, and them two, DJ Reader, and then Hutch and Houston.
Yep.
Good luck.
Done. Run on that, bitches.
I would move up for Latu. I definitely would. I think that he's had a comparable college career to Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the Latu has had, because Aiden had the injury in his junior year.
And he was also used as a 3-4 DE for that junior year.
Exactly. I think Latu's had a better college career as a totality. Hutchinson had a singular better year on its own, but Latu's had the better resume as a career. And there's no reason why that production wouldn't just continue. The thing with Chop, I disagree slightly with the take that you just gave from the main line. Only in that I don't think the biggest problem is break and contain with the quarterback. I think the biggest problem is that we get pressures without sacks. We don't finish. And conversion rate, and that's related, but it's not the entire story. We get pressures and we don't convert it into sacks. And what does Chop Robinson not do? Get sacks. He doesn't get them. So why do we think he's miraculously going to turn around and be a guy who finishes off the quarterback? I know
your production full stop. If you want to be a first-round pick, you have to have production. Even if it's only over 1 year, you've got to have production. He doesn't. It's literally athletic profile, which is, again, this is the fight against Raz and stuff like that I so staunchly wage. Compared to someone like Jay, you can go all the way down to the day 3, like day 2 guys, like Javon Solomon, guys like that. They're more talented. They've got more pass rush moves. They've got more production. They're just better. But because he's a massive athlete and he has a higher floor in the NFL, yeah, he might not be great. He could be a more special teamer for years. People love him. You can't go in the first when you've got so little production. And like Dan and Brad, I know they're not going to pick him.
No.
Because Dan and Brad, with their first-round picks, go for production. Jameer Gibbs, productive. Jack Campbell, productive. Penei Sewell, productive. Hutch, productive. When you spend a pick that high, you've got to have something to... But you can't just base it on pure athleticism. Teams that do that fail. And we're not a team that fails with our drafting. Just stop it. What is it? 5 sacks in a season, the most he's had? He's an edge. DTs get more than... Jazane Newton had more sacks than that this year. And he's a 300-pound DT who's not known for his pass rushing. And he still had the same volume.
And the thing about Penn State as well is that they have athletic guys across their entire D-line. So it's not like he's seen double-team attention.
No. And they actually have a very talented defense. That D-line's stacked. And if anything, he should be getting more one-on-one opportunities. To go and make plays.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the massive concern I've had. And all it is athleticism. That is lazy scouting. Lazy-ass scouting when all you do is scout the athletic score. That's it. Because he's not shown it on tape.
Right. 2 more questions. Mile Marker didn't hear the news about this guy. but I'll just talk about him anyway. International player, pathway player, Louis Rees-Zammit, former Welsh Rugby Union international, running back, wide receiver. Any thoughts for our practice squad? ? He says, we signed with the Chiefs, so unfortunately that ship has sailed. Although if he doesn't make the roster, other teams could make a play for him. Even though he's got some guaranteed money, we don't know how much it is, I don't think yet. It could be $100,000. Like, that isn't going to save him come cut down time. So let's see what the contract says. But I urge you to go and watch some Welsh International Rugby Union highlights, because the guy burst onto the scene as a 18 or 19-year-old, and his calling card was catching the ball not unlike a punt returner or kick returner does. That's one of the roles that he filled in rugby, as a wing and as a fullback. He was the guy back there catching kicks and then returning them. And one of his things was being able, lateral agility-wise, to burst through a line advancing towards him to take it to the house. It's a very translatable thing. But the other thing that wingers do is that they take the ball on in wide situations and have to beat people one-on-one. So I think he's eminently translatable to the NFL. Now, he has to get used to how the game works. I would imagine, because of how much he loves the league, has watched it for a long time, so gets it watching it on TV. Getting it, actually playing it, is obviously an entirely different animal. It's going to take him time, but he's an exceptionally smart guy as well. So, given his physical profile, how young he is, I think he's still only 23. So,
yeah, it's younger than me.
He's got a long time.
And if you're going to watch some Welsh rugby, watch when they play against England, because God chance are we beat them. We've beaten them 4 of the last 5 times we've played them, so you'll get to see us whip the Welsh at the same time.
That's true. And
I did see
on that whole...
Sorry.
Oh, go on. You go on, because I was going to be intelligence. I'll let you guys finish the rugby talk, and then I can...
No, please go, and then I'll say mine, because mine's glib.
So 2 things. So number one, obviously, if you want to see how good a rugby player can translate to the NFL, admittedly, I know it's one play. Watch Christian Wade's first snap for the Buffalo Bills
in the preseason game.
In preseason game, but imagine better. And then obviously with him being a rugby guy, even if he's like there running, let's say he makes it as running back 3, because he's a rugby player, he's used to tackling, so he's going to be great on special teams as well. So even if he's behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Pacheco, let's say they get rid of McKinnon, he takes that sort of McKinnon role where he catches passes, does some special teams. He's going to be great at that while he learns the game. So
yeah, I just can't see him as a running back. He's too big. Like, I know there are running backs his size, but there aren't many for a reason. He's going to be a wide receiver, or he's going to be a big DB. Like, I think he translates better potentially to safety than he does to wide receiver or running back, but we'll see.
Fullback.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the position he played in rugby. So, final question from Savor the Flavor, who is a new commenter on Twitch from Michigan. So appreciate you joining the show and asking a question. They ask, I didn't want to say he, she, because I don't know. How does Jameson Williams compare as a prospect to Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbours? I'm hopeful this will be JMO's breakout year with some solid contribution from Donovan Peoples-Jones. So where does Jameson Williams slot for you compared to MHJ and Neighbours?
He's better than Neighbours, but not as good as MHJ. Like, again, I can't put this into words enough of just how special a project MHJ is. Like, his ceiling is number 1 wide receiver in the NFL for a very long time. And I think it's a bit unfair to... Because JMO's a speed receiver. JMO's like an elite speed receiver who works that way. MHJ is not that. They're different receivers. The best one to be compared to would be Malik Neighbours. And I think JMO's better than Malik Neighbours. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I would say that Neighbours is a better downfield threat marginally, but they're both exceptionally good at it. But I think Neighbours is marginally the better prospect at that. And Jameson is better at everything else, although they were both projects at everything else. But JMO is further along than he was. The Neighbours is doing that, but that's not saying much because JMO was pretty raw at everything else too. So I think if I had to give the edge to someone, I think I might say Neighbours. It's tough, but you're splitting hairs. I would probably put them equal, and I think at this point it doesn't really matter.
JMO wasn't raw. JMO was just injured. Like, injury hampered JMO's injured, and he was a lot more experienced in college. Like, he started a lot more.
But I was saying at the non-vertical stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
Raw at the non-vertical stuff, at the vertical stuff polished.
Yeah. But for me, the reason I'd put JMO above Neighbours is, and it's something that kind of gets forgotten a bit because obviously, but for me, I know it might be a hot take for me, and you guys can laugh at me. If JMO was fit to run the 40-yard dash, he would have broke the record before Worthy did.
Yes.
I think JMO's that fast. That's like, I know Worthy, it's not just the 40-yard dash, even though that's literally one of the few athletic tests he done. He did other things at Texas. That's how I see JMO. JMO's bigger. He can actually, well, Worthy's like my height. He's relatively small. JMO is at least got the height for a wide receiver. He's like 6'1". So for me, Neighbours is good. Don't get me wrong. For me, I'd rather have JMO. Like, JMO would slot in easily as wide receiver 2 in this class, which makes it mad because look at the class that JMO was in. He was like the 3rd, 4th receiver off the board. That's pretty mad.
Right, that is our show. I don't have any other questions. We've been going almost 4 hours, so apologies to you podcast listeners. It's a heck of a long one, but it's a big class. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, we still haven't talked about a few people that I've looked at, so it's pretty nice. We didn't talk AD Mitchell. We didn't talk Keon Coleman, really, apart from a passing reference here or there. Never mind the fact that still in the first 2 days, we have Xavier Worthy, who might get into round 1 consideration still, don't know. Devontae Walker, Jalen McMillan, in brief reference by Ant. Roman Wilson, we've briefly talked about. Jermaine Burton, we've briefly talked about, but not really. Ricky Pearsall, you did cover, but only briefly. Jamari Thrash. That probably covers all the potential day 2 guys. Hanaya Smith, maybe, but probably not. So we've covered a lot. Anyway, much appreciated you guys for listening into the whole thing, and to all the guys in the YouTube and Twitch chats. You've been absolutely fantastic. Our next show is going to be college football. It's what's already on the podcast feed, but we'll do a premiere for that, which was, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan's top 5 guys in each position and your top 5 guys for the Lions in each position.
Correct.
All right. So slight variant on a theme for that. So hopefully that'll come out. I maybe launch that tomorrow. And then are you doing another college show this week, or is that it for the moment?
Yeah, possibly.
Anyway,
I'll see.
go and check out the HBCU stuff that we released yesterday if you haven't already seen it, because it was a premiere on an uploaded video. It's not on the front page. If you go to videos on our YouTube, you'll see it there. Probably the best show we've ever done as a podcast. So go and check that out. Otherwise, our next show on the main podcast is our 7-round Lions mock draft show. We only do one a year. We all show our picks sequentially. It's going to have trades, anything goes, whatever you think the Lions are going to do, that's what we're going to reveal. The week after that is going to be our predictive full first round mock draft. And then we're into draft week after that. So crazy stuff. I want to still do some more positional reviews, so we might try and fit in another episode somewhere, but God, it's just so busy right now. Anyway, if you got some suggestions for us, get in touch. Get to the Discord. We'd love to chat with you. If you're in Detroit for the draft, come hit us up because we'd love to meet you. Otherwise, add us on our socials and doing some great stuff over on Twitter, of course. Through the draft, I'm sure he's going to be very active with all the picks and what have you. So add us, Rural Alliance UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the group for worldwide fans on Facebook is Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. Our own Ryan Farden, the Lions International Fan of the Year. And a little birdie's told me you might see a bit of him during the draft. Just saying. Don't know. I'm not going to say anything more than that. But Little birdie told me you all might recognise him soon. He's running a giveaway for the new Lions jerseys. It's on that Facebook group I just mentioned. It's called Detroit Lions Fans UK One Pride Worldwide. It's $10 for a raffle ticket. He's going to buy the jersey out of his own money. All the proceeds that are donated to that via a ticket are going to benefit a Detroit children's charity. So if you've not entered already, go and find it on there. That is closing imminently. So if you don't do it as soon as you hear this, you may miss out. Apologies, but obviously that's going to come when the new jerseys are launched in just over 2 weeks' time. So fantastic that he's running that. Really great stuff by him. Website as well, which I didn't mention, rotluk.com. Just remains for me to thank Ryan McCluskey, who just disappeared off about, well, maybe an hour and a half ago now, but never mind. Anthony Fitzpatrick, Ashley Soden, I'm Matthew Turner. We'll see you later on in the week. Have a great one. For now, let's go Lions, one pride.
One pride.
Hashtag bring back the black jerseys.
Recording stopped.